Is Andi Doci present?
Yes, sir.
Ms. Doci, come on up.
Yes, sir.
Okay, we'll address that too. Okay. Have a seat, sir. Uh, 20 and 21 will address at the same time. Mr. Patrick Ganetti and Mr. Anthony Ganetti. Have a seat. Okay. As to 2019 DR 27805 and 2019 DR 27816, both the respondents are present. The petitioner has failed to appear. It's about 3:05 or 3:11, according to the court's clock. Gentlemen, at this point, I'm going to go ahead dismiss the action for lack of prosecution without prejudice. With that, please wait for your paperwork. Thank you. Two. Ms. Doci, am I pronouncing your name correctly?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, Your Honor.
Ms. Doci, your full name is?
Andi Doci.
Doci. Case number 2019 DR 28102. I've had a chance to look at your petition you previously filed for repeat violence. Are there any additions, anything you want to supplement the record?
I have done everything possible, but I did get a copy of the petition, and the pictures are not...
Judge, I have the respondent here, Trent Smith.
Trent Smith is present. Please come up.
Sit here, please.
Your name, sir? Your name?
Trent, Andrew Smith.
Did you get a copy of the petition in this cause?
Yesterday afternoon, yes.
Okay. Are you needing some additional time to prepare for this?
Well, in regards to what's going on, there's
The
two other
question-
neighbors. I'm not sure. I have two other neighbors that I couldn't get in touch with.
Okay.
That had something to say to what's going on, so I think I'm okay.
You understand if we proceed in the middle of the hearing, it's kind of late at that point, say, Judge, I needed some more time to bring my other witnesses forward. You're not going to get that opportunity. So if you're needing a continuance to get ready, especially the fact that you were served with this yesterday afternoon, it's probably best to give you that opportunity.
I think I'm good. Thank you.
The way you say that, I heard this, and I want to share this with you. I heard an attorney mention this in jury selection. As you're getting ready to get on a plane, if you ask the pilot, do you think you can land this plane? If he says, I think I can, are you going to get on that plane?
No,
So I'm not getting a warm feeling here that you're ready for trial. But if you're ready for trial, we'll try the case. But I don't want you to tomorrow have a different thought about this. If you want a continuance, I can give you continuance.
I would rather go ahead and just move forward. I think I have enough evidence to show.
Okay. All right.
Thank you, though.
You're welcome. Ms. Doci, any other witnesses besides yourself?
No.
Any other witnesses besides yourself, Mrs. Smith?
Yes, my fiancee, Karen
Okay.
Long.
Okay. Gentlemen, both stand up, face the Madam Clerk to be sworn in.
Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Okay. Please have a seat. Both parties have been duly sworn. Mr. Doci, you filed a petition in this cause. We're bound by the four corners of your lawsuit. Explain to me the last incident that you feel was an act of violence towards you by the respondent.
Yes, sir. Your Honor, when I noticed that the respondent had moved into my property after I had clearly let him know that I didn't want him anymore in our property, I went outside and I let him know, and then at that point, he threatened that if I got close or anything like that, he would beat me up.
When was this?
This was on the last time that was, I'm sorry, one moment. This was April 27th,
Okay.
2019.
I had a chance to read your typed petition. Y'all are neighbors
Yes,
over in the beautiful township of Indian Atlantic.
yes.
Any issues over a scooter
Yes,
and
the issue,
over your neighbors, family members possibly parking on your property?
yes,
Okay. And this is what I want to ask you, because you filed a petition for repeat violence.
yes,
The allegations in the petition deals with allegations where somebody from this other household is maybe trespassing on your property or acting in such a way that maybe not the most pleasant way you expect neighbors to act. But as far as the term violence, as that term is defined in Florida law, that's specific to instances of assault, battery, or any type of act by this side that places you in fear for your safety, imminent fear of your safety. So that's what I need you to explain to me in your words. Give me at least two instances that you felt an act of violence was imminent.
on March 11th, Your Honor,
Okay?
Mr. Smith was extremely angry. He believed that I had trespassed and illegally parked on his property.
What did he say to you?
He threatened to beat me up, and he got ready to do so before.
Describe what he said. I mean, that's important. Don't give me conclusions.
He said, basically, I'll kick your behind,
Okay.
I don't want to.
Okay. And did he make any hand gestures, anything
He pointed to me,
pointing?
yes.
Okay. And that's on March 11th. Any witnesses to that?
Well, there should have been, but they don't come forward.
Okay. Besides March 11th, what is the next act that you feel would qualify as a threat towards you to do harm?
The other threat is by simply violating my right to my property, because I don't feel like somebody who makes threats should use freely my driveway. That's an act of threat, and he also mentioned that verbally, that he would again repeated that he would kick my.
When was that?
This was on April 27th,
Okay.
2019.
Any witnesses to that conversation?
No.
Okay. Did you make those statements?
Absolutely not. I was upset that his scooter was parked on my property. I had lived in the residence maybe 7 months, and I spoke to Andi. First 2 days I moved in, cordially said hi, introduced ourselves. Other than that, in 7 months, I've hardly seen him. So on the 11th, my fiance had called me and told me that, there was a scooter parked on our property, and it looks like the neighbors. So I was at work, and I came home, and Scooter's still there. And I go in the house. And prior to this, I've never spoken to him. I've never had a hi, bye, nothing. But all the other neighbors I'm cordial with, I have friendship with. I just haven't seen him. And I'm only home I was only home 15% since January because of my work, because I'm self-employed.
What kind of work do you do?
I'm a tiki hut builder.
Okay. How far is your residence from Mr. Doci's house?
It's directly across the street.
Across the street.
So,
Are your family members parking on his driveway?
on my driveway?
On his driveway?
Absolutely not.
He says you have a daughter?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir.
He says, and I read his petition, your daughter and some other female in a car are basically sitting in a car on his driveway on some type of electronic device. Did that happen?
According to my daughter, the way he describes it, my daughter sat there for 5 minutes.
On his driveway?
On his driveway.
Why?
That's what he said.
Well,
I asked my daughter said no. But my daughter, and I could show you in pictures, I mean, literally where my daughter parks and backs up to go back out the street, because we live on a one-way street, I'm sure 2 wheels go onto his property. And prior to this, I had no idea that there was an issue.
Okay.
So to say that my daughter drove on his driveway to back out of my driveway to leave the property to go to school, absolutely more than likely did happen.
Did you ever make any threats to him on the 11th of March or the 27th that you're going to physically harm him?
No, I said I was physically going to move his scooter if he didn't move it, after he made it abundantly clear when I walked over to find out why the scooter was on our property. After about 5 minutes, he finally came to the door, and pretty much a posture of, he looked angry. So I had no idea why his scooter was over there. I had never spoken to the man other than when I first got there. So come to find out, he had parked it there because he said my daughter had parked in his driveway for 5 minutes.
His scooter was on your property?
Was on my property.
Your scooter on his property?
No, Your Honor. The scooter is on county property on easement of the road.
Why are you putting your scooter on an easement? Why not in your garage?
Well, for starters, my cars occupy the garage. That's one. Number
Okay.
2 is, that parking spot, I clearly stated it in the statement that I see them backing into, because it's tight over there, they don't use their driveway, they
Right.
just back into my driveway. And because of the gestures and everything, I decided I'll put my bike there, right, which is
Right.
legal, and I
Right.
have a right to do that.
Sure.
And then if Mr. Smith wants to argue about it, that's fine, and I'll tell him why I feel about it. And if we come to an agreement, fine, I'll move it, but then we have an agreement not to, that didn't happen, and that's why I put my scooter there.
Okay. How long have you lived in the neighborhood?
Excuse-
How long have you lived in this area?
About 2 months
months.
before Mr. Smith.
Okay.
I
Both
would
of you.
also like to clarify one thing, if I may.
Please.
First time we met, there was a huge trailer overloaded. I'm pretty sure they remember, that backed into our driveway, that was doing work at their house that they rent. And he came close to the house about a foot away, and they acknowledged that, they were there. I also told them, I don't appreciate this normally, and they said, oh, we go all the way in the back. I said, there's a T-shaped all the way at the end of the street, and they said, oh, that's what we do. We go all the way at the end of the street. So I found it kind of abnormal, because you can use your driveway as an extension to make a U-turn. So I knew they were somehow lying to me. I didn't appreciate that, but I didn't make anything out of it. I continued to wave at them when I saw them, although they turned their heads and never said anything, made gestures, assuming...
What type of gestures?
Well, one time, both the party, husband and wife, they were driving away from their house. I was returning, and I waved, and Mr. Smith replied immediately, not with a wave, but in the same rhythm with a pointed finger towards my daughter's window
Okay.
where she sleeps.
And the voice is carried, quiet.
Anything else?
Well, I'd like to clarify other things, like when he kicked the scooter, may I approach the bench?
The kicking, and again, I'm trying to tell you, you filed your petition for repeat violence. So for
Yes.
repeat violence, you have to show me either an act of violence or some form of stalking, something besides
Yes.
property damage. Because
Yes, besides
property damage is not, if you can't get an injunction protection because somebody damages your property. That's,
No,
we have other courts
I
for.
I understand, but at the same time, when he threatened me, right, that he was gonna kick my ass, he got close to me, and that's when his wife got in between us.
Right.
So I didn't wanna hit them, so I made a defensive push.
Uh-huh.
That's when he got angry, he ran to the other side, and he kicked the bike.
Okay.
So there was his wife between us, that's why he didn't do anything physical to me.
Okay.
But it shows that,
Is
as you
that
can see, if I
the
may.
April 27th incident?
No, this is the.
March 11th?
March 11th.
Did you report this to the township law enforcement
De-
agency?
Deputies have filed a report. Mr. Smith has admitted to kicking the scooter.
Well, again, you're going back to the scooter. I'm talking about threats of bodily harm towards you. Have you filed a report with any Atlantic or the Sheriff's Department that he has threatened to
Yes,
harm
I
you?
did.
So, is that being investigated? Did they close it? What's the status?
I believe the whole situation, they are referring it to the state attorney.
Okay. Okay. So, anything else besides March 11th, April 27th, what you've told me?
Well, these are instances where I have proof that an argument was initiated.
When?
March 11th, because I have
Right.
pictures, but gestures, were made, as I stated, when they pointed a finger to, and these were normal things that were, not normal, but common things.
Okay.
So I just, if I had solid proof that something was initiated, I can bring it forward, but this is as best as I can show.
Okay. I appreciate it. All right, anything else?
From me,
Yes,
I have quite a bit, actually.
as to what he's told me.
Correct.
Go ahead.
Well, pretty much it's all pretty fabricated and kind of slanted into his favor, and pretty much none of that occurred that way.
All right,
As far as my daughter parking it or pulling,
not,
okay.
it's what you have done or not done, not what somebody else. The way so, any other evidence you have as to the two instances you've told me about?
Not solid.
Okay. Let me explain to you both, because this is something, I don't know why two neighbors cannot live at peace and neighborly. This is a beautiful community. When folks move to Brevard County, when we have storms, hurricanes, everybody pitches in and helps out. They don't wait for the authorities to assist neighbor. So this is really not the way I expect neighbors to behave, especially in this beautiful community of ours. So hopefully, gentlemen, you all will start listening to what I'm about to tell you, because if this pattern continues, and if you had filed the proper pleadings, maybe the outcome would be different. Ms. Doci, you filed your cause of action under injunction protection against repeat violence. Repeat violence is defined under Florida law as two separate instances of violence or stalking committed by the respondent, one of which must have occurred within the past 6 months from the time you filed your petition. And it has to be directed towards you or your immediate family. The term violence, as that term is defined in Florida law, includes, but not limited to, the following: an assault, aggravated battery, aggravated stalking, kidnapping, false imprisonment, or any criminal offense resulting in physical injury or death by one person against the other. Stalking under Florida law is defined as willful, malicious, and repeated following, harassment, cyberstalking of another person. What you have presented to the court, does not fall, with all due respect, based on the two instances you've told me that he said he's going to harm you. There's nothing about an imminent threat, maybe a future threat. I don't find that as competent, substantial evidence in light of the fact that he's denying such a statement, and you don't have witnesses to support this, to grant your relief. But if this issue persists, I want to make sure you all have a clear understanding. The doors to the courthouse are always open. If a neighbor such as yours comes back and says, Judge, you warned him, and now look at what's going on in our neighborhood, okay? The court, if he filed the right petition, may have considered this in a different light. Are we clear?
Yes, sir.
Your Honor, yes, I'm clear. May I ask the court what petition would be more appropriate?
I am not here to practice law. That's not permitted. With all due respect, speak to an attorney of your choice. But I'm here to advise both of you, respect each other's privacy rights, respect each other's property rights, and most importantly, let's have in this neighborhood folks who act neighborly with one another. If that cannot be accomplished, then either side can present that to a court for consideration. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Dismissed for lack of evidence. Mr. Doci, Mr. Smith. Gentlemen, good morning.
Good morning.
You all are familiar with the court's proceeding from a previous occasion. Am I pronouncing your name correctly? Is it Doci or Ducci?
Doci.
Doci. Ms.
Yes.
Doci, Ms. Smith. Ms. Smith, Ms. Doci, after the court's ruling on the injunction for against stalking violence, against repeat violence, apparently filed a new petition for stalking, alleging the same allegations prior. Are you seeking continuance to speak to counsel? Or are you ready to proceed with your case? I know last time you were served right before the hearing, so if you need more time, this is the time to ask. But once we start the case, both sides need to present their evidence.
I'm ready to proceed.
Ready?
Yes.
Okay. Ms. Doci, besides yourself, any other witnesses?
No, Your Honor. I did yesterday.
Ms. Doci, please, I'm going to respectfully ask you, as I've been telling everybody else, this is a very formal proceeding. Listen to the court's question and do your best in answering the question. The question I ask you, and I'm going to ask Mrs. Smith, is the same thing. Do you have any witnesses besides yourself to present to the court this morning?
They're not coming forward.
So the answer is, Judge, I don't have any
I
witnesses.
don't have any witnesses.
Are you asking for a continuance to secure witnesses?
No,
So besides yourself, no other witness would be presented to the court?
no.
Any documents you have to present to the court?
Yes, I do.
Those
Yesterday, Mr. Smith, based on the temporary injunction, which clearly states
Okay.
50 feet away from my vehicle, my vehicle, I pictured him within 35 feet of my vehicle, and I reported it to the sheriff's department.
I appreciate that. Ms. Doci, the issue before the court is not an issue of contempt. The issue before the court is whether the temporary injunction that the court previously granted should remain in full force and effect for a term of years or indefinite. So before we can address the issue of possible contempt, I need to, the only thing that's tabled for a hearing this morning is your petition. So both parties, please be mindful. I'm bound by the four corners of the petition. Facts, circumstances outside the four corners, as a matter of law, would not be permitted for the court to consider at the hearing today. So if you need some time to think about what I'm saying to you both, I'm going to go ahead give you all about 5 minutes. to gather your thoughts, but once we start this case, Mr. Doci, Mr. Smith, I expect you all to follow the rules. If you cannot follow the rules, then the court has to make certain decisions. So please be very mindful that, Ms. Doci, you were before me last time, and you're here again this morning. I expect you to be fully ready to address your case properly and address the court in a correct fashion. Are we clear?
Yes.
Are we clear?
Yes, sir.
So why don't we resume this case, and if you have any documents, all documents must be pre-marked, so you need to have your documents in order, so we're not spending everybody else's time this morning waiting for you all to organize your case. You should have been ready for trial prior to 9 o'clock this morning. So have all your documents ready, organized, 1 through whatever, so that we can go ahead, proceed with the actual litigation. Are we clear?
May I ask one clarification? Your
Yes,
Honor?
sir. Please.
Do the documents have to be labeled with a court case?
Those are the exhibits the court will so mark. You don't have to worry about that, but I want your documents all in order so that you're not going through your file looking for a certain document that you want to present to the court. So have all your documents ready to present, and if the documents are permitted on the rules of evidence, I will admit those. If they're not permitted, those documents may not be considered. Are we clear?
Yes.
So we'll pass on this case. Mr. Doci, Mr. Smith, start at 10:15 with all parties, all witnesses present, okay? Okay. Ms. Doci, Mr. Smith? (2019) DR 28961. Good morning, gentlemen. Once again, I apologize for the delay. Are you both ready to proceed?
Yes.
Yes, Your Honor.
Since last we spoke, there are no other witnesses besides the 2 parties, so hence both parties please stand up, face the clerk of the court to be sworn in. Stand up, face the clerk of the court to be sworn in.
Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Okay, please be seated. The court previously heard the issues. Is it still my understanding you both are gentlemen neighbors,
Yes.
living within less than 50 feet of one another?
Yes.
Over on one of our beautiful beachside communities? Based on my recollection, it was in the Atlantic, if I'm not mistaken?
Yes.
Okay. So, Ms. Doci, tell me, and again, we're not going to talk about what has happened since the temporary injunction. You have to go back to when you went to the clerk's office and you filed for your petition. What has transpired up until that point between you and your neighbor?
Well, I haven't seen him. He wasn't home for the 2 weeks between the clerk's office and today.
No. When you went to the clerk's office,
Yes.
you filed a petition. You said, tell Judge Garagozlo the following events happened and I want an injunction.
Yes.
I want to hear about those following events.
The latest event was that I had gotten a trespass notice by the sheriff's department.
When was that, Ms. Doci?
It was on the April 28th, I believe.
Of this year?
29.
29th.
Yes.
Yeah, the law enforcement issued a trespass warning against your neighbor?
Yes.
Okay. What else?
He had trespassed twice, and I pictured him
Okay.
in the property. Before that, he had damaged my scooter. This was on March 11th, 2019.
Okay. So the 2 trespasses, were they both on the same day, Ms. Doci, on April 29th?
No, I believe on the April 27th was the first time he trespassed,
Okay.
and on the next day, on April 28th, I called the sheriff's department,
Okay.
and the trespass warning has the date 29, because that's when I guess it took effect.
So basically, the dates we need to focus our attention on are April 27th, April 28th, and March 11th.
Yes.
Any other
And-
dates?
And March 12th.
What happened on March 12th?
That was the continuation of what had happened on March 11 with Deputy Gutbo,
Okay.
who then clarified about the location where the scooter was parked.
Okay.
It's part of the report, police report.
You know I can't look at that
Okay.
unless the deputy's here to say, Judge, this is what happened, I spoke to this person, that person. How do I look at that police report?
I have pictures of the damaged scooter.
That I can talk to you about. So so I have the dates clear, Ms. Doci. I have March 11th, March 12th, April 27th, April 28th,
April 28th,
right? So those
Yes.
4 dates.
yes.
Any other dates I should consider?
I don't have exact dates. All I have is stories, because I didn't record them.
What month, what year?
I believe this was April, February, no, I'm sorry, it was March, about from 1st to 7th, where I witnessed Mr. Smith through my kitchen window, initially talking to his daughter about
Okay.
some car repairs.
Right?
And then later, I noticed his daughter on the driveway,
Okay.
parked and making, a commanding stance and checking the phone.
Okay. So, and this is why I want to make sure I speak to you both so we can narrow the issues. I'm going to hear from you about what happened between March 1st and March 7th. And I also want to hear from you about what happened on March 12th,
Yes,
March 11th, and then April 27th, 28th, and possibly 29th. Those are the
Yes.
dates in question.
yes.
Okay. Why don't we start between March 1st and March 7th? This year, you said you saw him through your kitchen window?
Yes.
Speaking to his daughter?
Yes, it was a random thing. I was going to the fridge, and it looked kind of cartoonish. It wasn't like he was actually teaching about the car. He was going back and forth inside, and he had the hood open. I noticed it looked weird, but I didn't pay attention. I then continued to do what I was doing. I was actually thinking, and about a few minutes, I can't say exactly, later, I noticed through my daughter's room, the door was open, that his daughter with her car and a friend were on my driveway,
Okay.
about 4 feet to 5 feet away from my house.
Okay.
And I looked through the window, and I stood there observing them, what they're doing. Are they just sitting there? Are they turning?
Where was the respondent? Was he on your property? Was he?
Not at this time.
So at this time, what you see is him having a conversation with his daughter, where, on his property?
On the easement, on the other side of the street.
Okay. On the public roadway?
Yes.
You can't hear the conversation.
No.
Next thing you see is his daughter and somebody else on your driveway.
Yes.
Are these zero-lot homes? Like, I
No,
mean-
they have 20 feet property before, and then 10-foot easement, and then a
The street.
20-foot wide street.
And the driveway is always in the front?
Yes.
Okay. So did you see him say anything or do anything between March 1st and March 7th?
No, I don't remember.
So when you say, Judge, I don't remember, is that didn't happen, or you just don't have a present recollection?
I don't have a present recollection.
Okay.
Besides what I just stated.
Okay. March 12th, strike that. March 11th, that's the next day, next
Yes.
event, about the scooter. What happened on March 11th?
Well, because my in-laws, they come to our to our house.
Sure.
I had my scooter parked really against a walkway, and it was obstructing, so I said, since the neighbors are not respectful to us,
Right.
why should I respect that easement as his when it's really not? I can take advantage of that.
Easement
It's a county easement.
Is
It's
this
the street, parallel to the street, there
Would
is
you
no...
mind drawing a diagram for me? Because
Yes,
we have the easel with this way.
Judge, I have photos of,
Well, it's his case. Let me see what we're going with
no,
this.
no problem.
Trying to see where this easement is located. So you may have to clear, wait, let's see if we can get you an eraser to clear that.
Thank you, sir.
So. You can- There we go. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Just make sure you don't get any of that on your fingers. Okay. Okay, thank you. You may want to draw further down so you don't get ink on your hands. So put a little a box where your house is located.
My house is located,
Okay. Okay.
there's about 20-foot property.
Okay.
There's another 10-foot easement. There is a 20-foot roadway.
Okay. And what's the name of the street?
Atlantic Avenue, there is an easement. This,
Okay.
and then there's a driveway. Mr. Smith, the easement has some flowers here, and the house is located
Behind that. Okay.
behind this. I have a driveway right here,
Okay.
and a driveway right here.
Two driveways. Okay.
Yes, and this is
Now-
wider.
When you say easement, is that like a sidewalk?
No, it's just grass.
Grass?
Usually grass, could be trees, people, yeah.
And there's no sidewalk?
No, there's
So it
not.
just goes grass to the roadway, grass,
In this case, there's gravel.
gravel? Okay. And where was your, what type of a scooter are we talking about?
It's a Aprilia Sport City 250, 2008.
Okay.
It's considered a motorcycle because it's 250 cc's.
Where was it parked?
It was parked right here,
On the gravel?
facing this way.
Okay, on the gravel?
Yes,
Okay. So you may have a seat. Thank you. Now I understand. Okay. So your scooter is parked on the gravel on the other side of the road from your house. What happens? What did you see?
Well, I was home playing video games, and my mother walks to me and says, "The neighbor wants to speak to you." So I walked outside. I said, "Hello, can I help you?"
And the neighbor is
And-
this gentleman?
Yes.
Okay.
And he said, "Why is your scooter parked over there?"
Okay.
I said, "Well, because, I don't, the scooter, it's not your property."
Right.
Right? And why should I explained to him what I had seen, what I considered disrespectful through his daughter and the use of my driveway before. So I said, if he doesn't respect me, I'm gonna leave it in county property.
Okay.
This is through an understanding, it's not through law.
Sure.
That-
So what
and
happens?
He said, "Well, that's my property.
Okay.
And if you don't remove it, I'm gonna break that thing. I'm gonna
Okay.
drag it right into the street."
Okay.
And I said, "Listen," and initially he told me, "Why can't you be a man and talk to me about it?" I was like, "Look, every time I see you, you either turn your head and don't say hello, or you make a gesture."
Okay.
And then he said, he didn't acknowledge it, and he said, "Why can't you be a man about it?"
Okay.
So I said, "Look, who do you think you're talking to?" And he said, he didn't say anything. I said, "This is what I'm gonna do. I don't wanna talk to you. You're disrespectful. You're disrespecting me in my house.
Okay.
On our property. And that scooter is in county property. It's
Right.
staying where it is."
Right.
At that moment, he turned around, walked past me, pushing my side, and walked to the scooter saying, "I'm gonna break that thing, drag it onto the street." And he walks, looks at it, and then grabs it by the handles, the
Right.
front handles, tries to push it, to pull it, but it was locked and on the stand. So
Right.
it almost fell, so I grabbed it and I straightened it.
Okay.
Then he realized that it was too heavy and you couldn't drag it that way. Then he walked past me on the side of the street going west, And he looked at me and says, if you don't take that scooter away from here, I'm gonna kick your ass, excuse my language.
Okay?
And at that point, I said, no, it's staying where it is, it's county property. Check before you do anything. I actually said stupid. And that's when he moved forward,
You called him stupid?
before you do anything stupid.
Oh, before you do anything stupid, okay.
Yes.
Okay.
At that point, I couldn't choose wise words or.
Sure,
you
sure.
understand?
Sure.
So at that point, his wife comes out screaming
Right.
as these events are developing, this is in our property, you know, you can't park over here, this and that. And at that point where he threatened, he moved forward, right? His wife got in between us.
Okay?
At that point, she put her hand pushing me and her back towards him. That's when I didn't push forward, I just took her arm in a non-aggressive manner and I pushed him away from me.
Okay?
At this point now, he looks a little bit side to side, and then he runs to the other side of the scooter between his house, and he kicks it. He gives it a very strong kick,
Okay?
and as the things develop, right, she was on the phone with 911, I'm guessing. He points at the scooter and says, look at your scooter, look what happened to it. Look what happened to it. He didn't say, he was pointing at the taillight.
Sure.
And I didn't notice exactly at that moment because there was a lot of aggression and I kept my eyes, I didn't want to get hit.
Sure.
And but I felt very embarrassed. You know, he had a proud emotion that he had done, you know, taking care of business. At this point,
So
I
at that
said,
point, you're feeling embarrassed. Define what that means. What does that mean, embarrassed?
I felt embarrassed, like I couldn't do anything to defend my property.
Okay. Okay.
And there were people around us that had come out. At this point now, I was really fed up. I had no choice. So I told them, if you kick my scooter again, I'm done watching. I'm going to do you just like you do my scooter.
What does that mean?
That I'm going to defend my scooter. If you attack the scooter and you threaten me, I'm going to have to defend it
How?
physically.
Okay. Did that get to that point?
No.
Okay.
At that point, a gentleman from the neighbor to the west, I asked that neighbor if he had seen anything, and he told me no, he's present today,
He's here?
but his friend had seen something, and I asked him, did you see the whole story? No, he said he only saw when that lady was on the phone and they were close to their property. And I asked him, was I aggressive? And he said, no, you weren't. You were being normal.
Okay. Anything else?
And he asked then Mr. Smith to go inside the property, his house.
Did he go in?
Yes, and
Okay.
as he went to the door and I moved to the other side, and I was thinking, did they call 911? Did they call the sheriff's department, police? Because I might have said,
Sure.
call the police, you know,
Right.
law enforcement. So I got my phone and I called them. And Deputy Gutbo got to the scene,
Okay.
and
Very well.
we argued with Deputy Gutbo.
In front of the deputy, everybody's arguing.
Yes. I
Hmm. What
was
else?
pretty sure of my statements, Your Honor, because I had dealt with the county, and they had clearly told me that easement, if somebody parks on your side, you can't do nothing about it. It's just part of it. That's what it
Anything
is.
else happened between you and the respondent on March 11th?
No,
besides what you- okay.
this was the end of it.
So what happened on March 12th?
March 12th, then I complained to the sergeant that Deputy Goodwill was
Yeah.
misinformed.
Anything between you and this gentleman on March 12th?
No.
So March 12th is you having a conversation with our local law enforcement official?
Yes, the sergeant,
Okay.
and they had determined that it was criminal mischief.
And that's a separate matter,
Yes.
what they determine or not determine. So now, Ms. Doci, would you be kind enough to tell me what transpired on April 27th?
I was out with my family, we had guests. When I returned, my family then with my wife decided to leave,
Okay?
and they left. I was still home.
You're by yourself? Okay, what
I had-
happened?
I had already let Mr. Smith know multiple times that I didn't want him on my driveway, on my property.
Sure.
He's been trespassed verbally. I'd also asked the deputy. I was playing video game, went to get a drink, and I see him on his driveway, right? They were backing up and moving cars.
Uh-huh.
And I just stood there looking, and it looked to me like he was gonna go straight into my driveway.
On your
After I-
driveway?
Yes.
Okay. Past the easement.
Past the easement.
Okay.
Right.
So did he go on your
The whole car
property?
was not past the easement, but most of the car, including him.
He was in a car?
Yes, he was in the car.
Okay.
So he was driving his Mercedes-Benz, I think it's a 1980s through 90 model, which is longer front, and he sits towards the other half. At this point, he drives all the way in,
Right.
right? And I grab my phone. As I'm turning the phone, I still catch him in my property and I take pictures.
Do you have that picture?
Yes, I do.
Can I see that picture?
I have a small setup, if you want to take just a picture or,
Give me whatever you want me to look at. Let's have Mr. Smith look at that. If he has no objections, I'll look at it.
You're going to explain it, yeah, show him.
Okay. yes.
Okay. Those are all your exhibits, right?
These are the exhibits that
But-
he was still, after me running through the house, after he had backed up, he was moving forward.
Uh-huh.
I still have pictures on my cell phone, if you would like to see them.
Anything different than that? The pictures you have on your cell?
They're clear, they're a little bit larger.
But otherwise, it shows me the same thing.
Shows you the same
Okay.
thing.
Mrs. Smith, any objection to looking at, the court looking at this? Without objection, this will be petitioners one. For the record, the first page is a description, it looks like a
It's a
architectural drawing of your residence.
It's a survey
Survey,
showing
sure.
property lines and corners.
Sure. And then I see a two-door convertible Mercedes. Is that on your driveway,
Yes,
backed in?
yes.
Okay. And then you have pictures of what a Mercedes, you give me a description of what a Mercedes looks like?
Yes, that he sits after the half of the car. Yes, the last picture,
Yes.
to confirm that that's his Mercedes.
Okay.
And
And
it's
then
within that.
a picture of a Mercedes for me to look at?
Yeah,
Is that his
it's the
Mercedes?
half of it, because he might
Oh, I see.
argue that, it was just 50% of my car in there. I wasn't,
I
I
see.
was right on the line.
I see.
So
I
I'm
see.
trying to,
Okay. The court will, without objection, accept these documents as composite one, plaintiffs, petitioners, excuse me. All right, Mr. Doci, so he, as you testified, he backed in a portion of his Mercedes SL onto your driveway, and this is the
the
brick
whole
driveway.
car was on my driveway, more than 50% initially was in.
Okay.
Then on the phone, I have clear red lights, though he was moving forward when I pictured him.
Does he do anything, say anything?
It says that at the time he was moving forward, he was further in.
Does
When-
he verbally say anything to you, do anything on the 27th of April besides
Yeah,
backing his?
yes,
Okay,
yes.
tell me about that.
As I took the picture, I said, look, I've told you before, I don't want you in my property. It's
Okay.
very clear.
Okay,
He turns around and says, nobody gives a damn, nobody cares about little things like this.
I see.
And then I got angry, and
Uh-huh.
I don't know what to do. So I was moving around, and I went to get the mail.
Outside,
I have a habit, I look at the mail.
sure.
And at that point, he looks at me and says, he was right in the middle of, you cross this line, you're getting fucked up. Excuse me.
Before you use that type of language in
I'm
front of
sorry.
me, ask permission.
Yes, may I, Your Honor?
Yes. Go ahead.
So you're getting effed up.
Okay.
I'll modify it. And I was tired of threats, I was tired of harassment. Police hadn't
So-
filed a trespass
Right.
yet.
So what happens?
I walked up to him and said, you're threatening me to do it? Go ahead. And I showed him my cheek.
Like you want him to hit you?
No, I wasn't gonna let him, but I was saying, you're threatening me.
Okay.
So.
So what
and
did he do?
He took a fighting stance, and I wasn't gonna let him hit me. I was
Right.
gonna move away.
Right.
He noticed that, and he twisted his arm like he wanted to really hit me. And I don't think he could locate my face because I was moving it slightly, and he moved away, thinking like I should have hit him.
I see.
At this point, I said, you know, you make threats. I'm tired of your threats. You know, you're just a loud mouth, big mouth. I don't remember exactly what I said afterwards.
Okay.
Just a loud mouth. And I showed him, you better check your facts. And I walked to the easement and I said, what about now?
Right.
You've checked your facts. What about, and then I walked and I called the sheriff's department because I have to play offensively because if I let him, you know, if I show blood, if I may ask, if I may say it that way, he's just gonna get worse. So I have to push back. That's
Okay.
what I think. And his wife comes out. She opens the door.
Right.
When I come out, I was on the phone with the sheriff's department, and she starts telling me, "Hey, you, get the, may I use that language?
Please.
Get the fuck back to your country. Go back to your country." That's what
Okay.
she exactly said. She had another woman next to her at the door,
Okay.
and I said, you know what? If I may ask, use the language, you know
Now
what?
go ahead.
You know what, bitch? Shut the fuck up. That's what I said. It was because it's very offensive to me. I'm a citizen, okay? I've been here for 20-some years, all right? What's up with that? You're on my property without being, you know, invited. You're rude. You destroyed my bike. And then you tell me to go back to my country. Your Honor, it's not very pleasant to be next to them.
Right.
So, and the constant threats elevate my blood pressure. I'm not happy there. And we own the property, so.
I know. Did Mr. Smith say anything or do anything, not what his wife said to you? Anything he say at that point?
He moved to the door, and then he moved inside.
But he didn't make those inappropriate comments about,
No, but he didn't object to them
right,
either.
okay. So what about the 28th of April? What happened?
On the 28th, I noticed him, he was inside my driveway.
Right.
As he was moving out,
His car again or him?
him in his car.
He's in his car, in his
Yes.
Mercedes.
Um,
He pulls into your driveway forward or backwards?
Not the Mercedes.
Not the Mercedes.
Or
What
I
car?
don't remember which car, I'm sorry. But it was him.
Okay.
And I have to recall, I have to give it
Okay.
some work. But it was him in his car. And I noticed that as he was moving out, that's when I was fed up, and I said, I believe it was the Mercedes.
Okay.
I believe it was the Mercedes. I called the sheriff's department.
Right.
And I spoke with the sergeant because I said, look, I can't go through deputies. Deputies, are not knowledgeable enough, and I'm keep calling, and I keep getting harassed. I keep telling him, I'm sorry, I have to make a correction. On
Please.
the 27th, I
27th,
did call the deputies,
yes,
but he had left in his Mercedes.
Okay.
With his wife.
okay,
The deputies looked for him to trespass him,
right.
but he wasn't home.
So,
And that's where it ended. He gave me the case number and the card.
okay,
So on the 28th,
yes,
I called again. I said, can I get this deputy? I spoke with him already. Can I get him to come? He's home. Mr.
Sure.
Smith is home. They said he's not on shift. And I said, okay, send me somebody else and I'll explain it to them. I have a
Okay.
picture from previous day. So I explained it to that guy. And we argued a little bit. I made sure I explained
argued
just
with
like
Mr. Smith or the deputy?
the deputy.
Okay,
I made sure that those lines, Your Honor, are two parallel lines on the pictures, giving you a common point, and you can draw between the survey property lines, so you can see it's right in front of him. I explained that to him, and I was like, here you go.
Did
And
you
that's when they
Did you
signed.
take any pictures on the 28th?
No,
Nothing on the 28th?
no, I didn't take any pictures.
So-
It was too fast, and I didn't have time to react.
So I have these dates. Any other dates that you want me to consider?
Yes, I would
Please.
like to consider the date yesterday. I know it's not part, but I think he's using it as an excuse to instigate.
The issue of yesterday, regardless of my decision today, if somebody, while a injunction, temporary injunction is in place, is not following the exact letter of the law when it comes to that injunction, you need to bring, either side, bring it to my attention. I can review that and make a decision. But Under our system, due process requires you place the other party on notice before you raise new issues. You see?
Yes,
So
Your
that's
Honor.
why I can't consider that. So at this point, the only thing that's been noticed for a hearing is this petition of yours that he is here to object to, I assume.
May I motion for a continuance? Is that, and then I can bring that,
That's a separate proceeding, separate issue. If you wish to file any kind of pleadings in that regard, put in writing, get service on the respondent, and then I can address that, irrespective of my decision today, you see? So separate issues.
yes, Your Honor.
But let's kind of focus our attention, please, this morning to what's at hand. Anything else as far as your petition goes? Because that's what's before me is your petition for stalking violence.
That's, I've said everything that I have, proof and pictures.
No witnesses, no other exhibits for me to consider.
The witness that Mr. Smith has here today.
No, you.
He's pretty much the same witness that
Well,
I'm bringing.
we'll see what,
Okay, so otherwise, no.
your case, nothing else. Okay, so
Yes.
at this point, you're resting subject to cross-examination. Ms. Smith, do you have any questions for Mr. Doci?
Are you currently taking any medication? And I don't mean that in a facetious way, because there was a...
Unless you have a good faith basis to ask a question, you know, no different, like I said, if you're a lawyer. Cross-examination would be permitted if you have a good faith basis to ask the question. If you don't have a good faith basis, please refrain from asking such questions. Are we clear?
Yes.
If you have a good faith basis, you can ask it. Otherwise, cross-examination would not be permitted to impugn somebody's character before the court.
Was not my intention, but
I understand.
I understand.
So, any other questions?
No, Your Honor.
Very well. At this point, Ms. Doci, you've rested your case. Mr. Smith, what would you like the court to know about what transpired on these dates?
Well,
Or do you have a... Go
The very
ahead.
first incident with the scooter, which is what pretty much is the catalyst to
Right.
everything to date to where we're at right now. I moved into my residence about 8 months ago.
Mm-hmm.
Met Mr. Doci, I think, day one.
Okay.
Other than that, I never saw him. I know all my neighbors. I just don't know him. So as I previously told you, I own my own business. I'm gone from a week to 2 weeks to a month at a time. I've literally been at my residence probably a third of the time since December.
Okay.
Had no idea that there was an issue with his driveway, none until the scooter was parked on my residence. I was gone working, my wife had called me, asked why my fiance had called asking why our neighbor's scooter was on her driveway. I said, I have no idea, I don't even know him, we don't know
Okay.
him. So anyway, I came home, I walked over there, I knocked on the door. After about 10 minutes, he finally came out with a very aggressive stance and said what? He knew exactly why I was there. I asked, why is that your scooter, for one? He said yes. I said, why is it parked there? He proceeded to tell me that my daughter had drove in his driveway previously. He originally told me my daughter's car was black. My daughter's car is red. Then he changed it to, oh yeah, it's a red car. And he didn't like that.
Okay.
And I did say, okay, well, why is your scooter parked there? He says, that's not your problem, it's not your property, you just rent. And was just basically ugly. I saw that this was going nowhere fast. I said, well, if you have a problem with my daughter driving on your driveway, with me driving on your driveway, anything like that, be a man and come tell me. You don't have to play these games. Well, he pretty much lost his mind at that point
Okay.
when I said that. So he did threaten to, basically, he was going to do whatever to me and kick me off his property. At that time, I'm a smart enough man to know that when somebody says get off their property, I'm going to get off their property. So I did, and I did say, I'll remove your scooter if you're not going to. Well, he proceeded to follow me over there. We had words. My wife came out
Proceeded to follow you where?
across the street,
To your-
back to on my property where his scooter was.
Okay.
So my wife's watching out the window. She could tell that this is not going well, so she comes out. And there's an argument regarding the scooter and my property and his property and whether I rent and I'm whatever. And my wife stands in between us. The scooter is literally right there. And he proceeds to push my wife out of the way. He calls her an effing whore. He, and at that time, I was very upset to where I'm like, I'll move your scooter. I will move it over there.
Okay.
And I proceeded to actually go grab the scooter. And actually, that's the time he pushed my wife out of the way. He bum rushes me. We run into the scooter. The scooter, apparently the light breaks.
Right.
At that time, I realized I'm not going to jail over this guy. My wife is on the phone with 911. I can hear the conversation with that.
Right.
He's screaming and yelling, and we walk inside, and we proceed to wait for the deputy to show up.
Okay.
Deputy shows up. He spends almost 2 hours arguing with the deputy about his right to be able to park a scooter on my side of the road, and that's where it all started. Then, moving forward, it was very clear that there are, talking with other neighbors, boundaries of his property that he is adamant about. Which I got, not a problem. Told my daughter, she said she did, if she did back into his driveway, it was just because of the proximity of where we live. It's directly where her car parks to how she has to turn around to get back down the street because we live on a one-way street. Regarding the Mercedes in the photo, I had just got home from work after a month, and there was no cars in his driveway. And that is never because he has his car, his wife has a car. He lives in the same house with his parents.
Okay.
So his parents' car, every car was gone.
Sure enough.
I had, I don't know, 6, 7 cars at my house at that time because I had just gotten home. We had guests over, my kids were coming over, and we had taken the Mercedes was parked in a way that we needed to get back in the garage, and we had another car there. So my son was in the other car, I was in the Mercedes, I was backing out, there was a car coming, there's nobody home, and it's his father's driveway. I proceed to pull back, so my son can pull back so the car can go, and then I pull forward. Well, this all transpired in about 4 seconds, and this is the stalking, which is why it's really just kind of odd that I'm in this position. He comes running out of his house with his phone, hits the back of the car, scares the daylights out of me because I'm pulling out so I can pull a car back in.
Right.
Screaming and yelling, "You're going to jail now, and it's embarrassing because my son is there. He has never witnessed any, adults yelling. So I don't say one word. I pull back in, go in my garage, I tell my son to come inside. Well, my work trailer is on where the rocks are at this time. Normally it's in my driveway. And I noticed that my door was unlocked. So I proceed to go out there to lock the door. I do that. Mr. Doci comes out. He's literally standing on his side of the property. I'm on mine. I'm locking my trailer. And he's screaming and yelling at me. And he proceeds to start walking towards me. And I did say, don't get anywhere near me. I don't want to have anything to do with you. You don't like me. Obviously, there's a problem here. And he did. This is all a big game to him. For whatever reason, he has it out for me. He does not like me. So he did. He got right in my face when I said, please do not, I didn't say please, I said, do not come near me. And he came with his nose literally touching my nose, hit me, hit me, hit me. I have my son there, it's just embarrassing. My daughter, my wife, her friends, everybody, this has just been the biggest And
Anybody else
There's-
besides a family member who witnessed that? Any neighbors?
at that time, probably not, no.
Anything else?
So, obviously, I'm not going on his property, so I go on vacation for, well, first of all, I'm getting ready to go on vacation, I get cited with the reason we were in court a week and a half ago.
Anything else regarding the petition, not about what happened subsequent, about these dates? In March and April. Anything else happened in March and April?
No, other than yesterday when I came home from a week of vacation, I wasn't home 1 hour. I walk over to my neighbor's house, he comes running out, he takes a picture of me, and next thing I know, I got sheriffs back at my door.
Gentlemen, you both insist on talking about an issue that's not ripe for consideration here this morning, so let's not lose focus of the
Apologize.
issues. Not a problem.
So,
Anything else that may have happened in March or April that could assist the court?
I don't believe so.
Okay. Any questions, Ms. Doci, of the respondent?
Your Honor, can I make a statement or just questions?
Questions?
I don't have I'm not going to ask him any questions. It's not
So,
true.
no questions. At this point, any other witnesses?
I do. I have our neighbor who actually lives to
Okay.
the left.
Why don't I hear from your witness?
This is Fred Seibert. He lives catty corner. to
Would
Mr.
you
Doci.
come up to the podium, face Madam Clerk to be sworn in, Ms. Seigert?
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you give today will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth and nothing but
Yes.
Make yourself comfortable in the seat here. Once seated, would you mind getting closer to the microphones so that your voice is picked up? And give us your full name and spell your last name.
Fred Seibert, S-I-B-E-R-T.
Ms. Seibert, you've been called as a witness here by one of the parties. Mrs. Smith, any questions for Mrs. Seibert? Or do you want him to just tell me what he knows?
I would just like to tell him what he knows.
Well, I think I'm going to be off the,
March and April. Focus
Okay.
your attention on those 2 months. Did you see anything, know anything firsthand?
no,
Everything you know is from other people.
yes.
Mr. Smith,
He was a character witness.
that's, okay. Thank you.
I have a question for him.
He hasn't testified about anything. What is the question?
It's important because I walked to his house when the incident on the 11th happened, and I asked him, who was that gentleman that came from your house? You remember that gentleman that walked out? What's his name?
Juan,
Juan. Juan walked and separated the fight and told him to go inside his house, right? You were there when he stated that.
no, as far, I know Juan said that nothing, he didn't see anything. He didn't see any pushing or shoving or, that he really
He
didn't see
didn't see
anything.
basically us struggling and hitting the scooter.
He may have seen that, but he didn't see anything to do with the scooter, nothing whatsoever.
Okay, so there was no struggle between us and the scooter. Yes or no?
Am I going to testify for somebody else?
Mr. Doci,
I'm sorry, okay, I'll rest.
if I allow this, both sides are reinventing the rules of evidence before the court. That's not permitted.
My apologies.
The witness is being called as a lay witness. He can testify about what he saw, heard, as to an observed event. He can't testify about what somebody else said or did not say to him unless it falls with an exception to the hearsay rule. So unless you're prepared to explain to me how what Juan, last name unknown, may have said to this witness
May I-
outside is
Yes,
permitted.
can I ask him something about me?
Sure.
You know, what kind of person am I?
Again, you're going into character testimony. I didn't let him bring out his good character. How are you bringing up?
He testified that I'm an aggressive individual.
He hasn't, this gentleman has said that?
and
I
not
haven't
Mr. Smith.
testified.
So, and he knows me just as much as he knows Mr. Smith. So, I mean, he could say Andy is a,
You both want him to testify about his opinion about both neighbors today?
Okay, I'll rest.
I mean, if
I'm
you
sorry.
do, I'll permit it from both sides, but,
I don't think it's necessary.
no? Okay. Anything else?
No, sir.
Anything else, gentlemen, from this witness who hasn't said a word about,
No, Your Honor.
thank you. Next witness,
My fiancee, Karen Long.
please come up. Her name is?
Karen Long?
Ms. Long, please come up and face the clerk of the court to be sworn in.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you give today will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Just have a seat here.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Your full name,
Karen Lynn Long,
spell last name for the record.
Long.
Do you want her to testify from her own words, or do you want to ask questions?
She was there from day one,
Okay.
so I'll let her start with the scooter incident.
March 11th, what if, anything did you notice?
And you'll have to pardon me, Your Honor, I have an ear infection. So if I'm not speaking loudly or clearly enough,
You're
please
fine.
let me know.
Go ahead.
As was counted by both parties, Mr. Doci had placed the scooter upon what I believe to be our property that we are renting. I didn't know anything about the quote-unquote easement of the county. I'm new to the county, but I work in my front office slash our daughter's bedroom, and I went to the kitchen to make a salad, excuse me, came back, and I noticed a scooter that was on our rocks where we park. And so Trent was at work, at an appointment, and when he had finished, I called him and I said, "Did you tell the neighbor that he could put the scooter on our yard?" And he said, "No, I did not." So he came home and we were continuing to work, and several hours had gone on, and it was really upon my insistence, and honestly, if I had known that all this would have transpired in the meantime, I said, "Honey, please go over there and find out, what's going on? Why is this scooter sitting here?" And he said to me, "I have a really uncomfortable feeling walking over there, just because, we're polite people, we're nice, we wave. Trent's lived in this area for his whole life. He went to high school here. I've only been here, for the past year, and we know all the neighbors. And for him to say to me, 'I'm uncomfortable going across the street,' I'm like, oh, what could be the big deal? We've seen these people coming and going. We don't really know anything about them." So he went across, and, I'm still working at the computer, and I'm watching everything transpire. I see Mr. Doci come out of his house and have a very, aggressive posture, and, then I see Trent walking back, and, I'm getting a little nervous, and so finally, they're in the yard and by the scooter, and, I keep seeing Mr. Doci get, closer and closer, and, Trent backing away, and so finally I ran out there, and I'm like, "What's happening?" And then they're yelling, and that's when he pushed me and called me names, and anyway, so I'm sorry. I said, "I'm calling 911." Everything was a blur with the whole scooter and the pushing and, nonsense. Long story short, ever since then, he terrorizes us, stands at his window, watches us come and go. We're barely even home. We just want to work. We just want to live in Indiana until the last of our 5 kids goes to college. And that's it.
Any additional questions? Any cross-examination?
Yes, what kind of business is Trent involved in?
What does that matter?
It does matter because he stated that he's never home.
Okay, can I ask the witness to please not act as your own attorney? Ask if there's
We
not an
build tiki
objection.
huts. We make people happy.
Where do you store the material, and where does he do most of the work?
And what does that have to do with anything?
Again, would you please listen to the question? There's no objection from the respondent, so you need to answer the question.
Repeat the question,
I
please.
object. No. Materials might have nothing to do with this case.
How's
It
it
does
relevant?
because he has stated as a testimony that he's working away from his house most of the time.
Correct.
What I see him, most of the time, he's building and preparing the materials and storing them at home. And then for a smaller amount of time, he's going and constructing them.
Okay, Your
So
Honor.
that's why I'm asking.
Just ask the question, do your best to answer the question, and let's move on to the next issue.
All right, so, sir, since January 1st, we have built Pelican Beach's Tiki Hut, which was 2,000 square feet in Lake Lanier, Georgia, which took us 24 days. Then we went to North Carolina, and we built a
You
Tiki
have-
Hut, excuse me, we built a Tiki Hut behind the Ramada Inn, which took us 27 days.
You have
In
any
between then,
evidence,
we have
proof?
gone to Panama City Beach, and we built a Tiki Hut
You have any evidence?
for
I'm
Coconut
sorry.
Joe's.
I didn't ask you that, I'm sorry. I asked
So
you-
yes, we do work. We have been, yes, I do have evidence that we have been there 15% of the time since January 1st till present.
Okay, 15% of the time. That's 15% of the time,
15.
not 85.
Next question, please, Ms. Doci.
The other question is, did you notice the scooter having any damage?
Yes, the scooter had damage,
Where?
apparently a taillight,
Okay, when do you
according to your
notice this?
screaming and ranting,
When do you notice this?
when you were screaming and ranting about it.
Before that, when you looked at the scooter, did you see the damage?
I never looked at the scooter.
So how do you tell Mr. Smith there's a scooter in our driveway?
What?
Did you understand the question?
You stated that Mr. Smith was away working. You asked him, you saw the scooter and you told him about it, there's a scooter, right? Is that true? Because you stated that.
Yes.
Okay. Did you have a good look at the scooter?
I looked out the window, and there was a scooter
Right.
in the rocks
You
on
didn't
our
notice any
property.
damage?
There was a scooter.
No damage, nothing?
I have no
It
idea.
was- Looked a proper
I do
part
not
of the
recall
scooter.
there was a scooter.
Okay. Do you know the laws in the Atlantic?
I do not.
Were you ever informed?
Since you've brought this case to our attention, you have stated that there is apparently an easement.
Was that on the 11th?
I have no recollection of that.
So I never told you we're in county property, call the police.
I
and
have never had a
clarify.
conversation with you, sir.
The other question I have,
Please.
what kind of car what kind of model is the red car? Is it a Kia or a Hyundai? The one that your daughter drives?
I do not know.
Me neither, but it's a red car, right? Older, red
Correct.
car. Very
Next-
clear.
next
Does she
question.
always park at the same location approximately?
No.
Where does she park?
She sometimes parks in the rocks and sometimes parks in the driveway, depending on where other vehicles are located.
Never goes on the garage?
Excuse me?
Does she ever park the car in the garage?
The Mercedes is parked in the garage, so
But
no,
her
she does
car-
not.
Hers not. So it's always apparent that it's up front. It's
No,
very
sometimes
easy
it can be in the driveway.
in the drive, but in public view. Like, you could walk in front of my yard at my door and see it. Unless you're blind, of
Yes.
course, yeah.
Plus you're blind.
The thing is, so she always drives that car.
That is her car. She does, sometimes she might drive one of our vehicles, but typically,
Is that
yes.
the car she uses my driveway to back around?
I have never seen her back into your driveway, sir.
So how does she turn around?
She backs to, she's a teenage driver. She backs to the best of her ability, whichever way she needs to go onto the road, sir.
So she doesn't use my driveways at all?
I have not seen her use your driveway.
What about Mr. Smith? Have you seen him use my driveway?
I have not.
You never were present when he's,
I
I'm
might
not
have been
driving.
present, but I have not witnessed that.
you don't, may I show her this picture here?
Sure.
Oh, and I have a clearer, may I show her an electronic one?
You may.
I can't make this out.
Okay.
I can't see what this is. It's too
Okay.
blurry.
One moment, Your Honor. Okay.
Just hand it to the court's deputy, please. Do you recognize this photograph, Ms. Long?
This appears to be Trent backing the Mercedes so that Bryson can back up the
Ms. Doci,
Mercedes SUV.
what is the purpose of you showing her a photograph of an incident that she may have not witnessed?
Well, because she was there that day, Your Honor.
Well,
Excuse me,
ask-
sir, I was inside
folks,
the house.
Ask the question. If she's not present, you're not permitted, sir, to have a witness comment on some other document that she did not witness. So the question is, the question you posed, I thought, was, have you seen that vehicle on your driveway? Is it not the question?
Yes.
Okay. Answer to that question, please. He showed you a photograph of a vehicle. Have you seen that vehicle on Ms. Doci's driveway?
I witnessed the vehicle in the driveway just now from the photo, but previously I did not witness that
Okay.
because I was in the house getting ready to go to dinner.
Okay. Next question, please.
You remember the first time we met?
We met right when we first moved in, or we were getting ready to move in, and we came across the street and we said, hello, we're getting ready to move in. And it was a fine conversation.
You remember the overloaded trailer with the truck that was doing work on your property?
I do not.
You don't remember us talking about why I had walked out before greeting you?
No, I
That
do
he
not.
had backed into our driveway?
I'm sorry, I do not.
You don't remember you telling me that's what we do when I mentioned there's a turning point all the way at the end of the street? Oh, that's what we do. We go all the way at the end of the street. You don't remember that?
No, I do not. I'm sorry.
So on the 11th, did you call 911?
I did.
Okay, so you didn't call the sheriff's department.
I called
You
911.
remember telling them what you told them? Can you tell us?
I told them I was very scared.
Do you remember telling them that I was attacking your husband?
Are you putting words in my mouth, sir?
No, I'm saying, do you remember?
I remember calling 911 because I was very scared. That's it.
But do you remember what you told them? Can
No,
you-
I do not. I was very unnerved. I've never been in a situation like that before in my life.
What did 911 tell you?
They asked if I was okay and asked if Trent was okay, and they told me to go inside.
Did you have any injuries from the altercation?
I did not.
Did Trent have any injuries from the altercation?
He did not.
Any injuries to the hands?
No, sir.
Very clear, right?
How is this relevant, sir? I'm sorry.
Any other questions, sir?
No, that's all.
Okay. Thank you. You may step down. Any other witnesses, Mr. Smith?
No, sir.
All right. At this point, let the record show the respondent has rested. Any additional witnesses, Mr. Doci?
No.
All right. At this point, gentlemen, I appreciate everybody's time before the court. I've heard all the evidence that's presented. The court will make the following findings and ruling before the court. Mr. Doci, you had previously filed a petition for protection against repeat violence. That petition was denied by the court on May 14th of this year. The same set of facts, same set of type facts in your petition was refiled under a different legal theory, to wit, stalking violence. As I mentioned to you before, and I'm going to go ahead and explain to you all the issue on a stalking violence. Stalking violence has to be directed against a specific person. It's not issues that his daughter did or did not do that's relevant before the court in this analysis. So hence, the incident that may have transpired between March 1st and March 7th is of little value in the court's decision here today. March 12th, you mentioned nothing transpired between you and the respondent. That was a conversation, if any, you may have had with our esteemed colleagues, esteemed members of law enforcement. That has nothing to do with what Mr. Smith did or did not do to you. What's relevant is the issues that may have transpired on March 11, 2018 and April 27, March 11, 2019 and April 27, 2019. April 28th, based on your testimony, had nothing to do as far as what he did or did not do towards you, Ms. Doci?
Yes.
It was a conversation you may have had regarding a request for trespass. On the 28th, you mentioned he may have backed into your driveway, but you don't have any photographic evidence or otherwise to prove up that issue. So with due respect, the event of April 28th is not substantive evidence before the court except your testimony, and the same testimony that's refuted by the respondent, for the court to find competent, substantial evidence of what may have transpired on your property involving this Mercedes. What's before the court is an incident on April 27th, which have provided some documentary evidence regarding the vehicle in question and the events of March 11th. So, dear gentlemen, the law on this issue is clear. Stalking occurs, and I'm going to read to you what the statute says so that we don't have any, we have a clear understanding of the court's ruling. Means a willful, malicious, and repeated following, harassment, or cyberstalking of another person. The term harassment means to engage in a course of conduct directed at a specific person that causes substantial emotional distress and serves no legitimate purpose. In short, it's a type of conduct comprised of several incidents or acts over a period of time, however short, that provides evidence of a continuing purpose. Substantial emotional distress. The court has to look under a reasonable person standard, Mr. Doci, Mrs. Smith, and not a subjective standard. At this point, gentlemen, I'm going to go ahead and ask you all once again, and I'm going to basically read a decision from our esteemed Justice Judge Casanova from the 2nd District Court of Appeals. If we have a situation involving neighbors, and it was up to the court to basically say, you know what, I think I need to keep the peace, so therefore I have to grant an injunction protection, that's not the status of the law. It may be, as a reminder to the courts, the appellate courts have said, a permanent injunction protection, and in that case was repeat violence, cannot be used simply to compel civility and common decency. So I'm going to ask you both again to please be mindful of civility and common decency. It's not a directive I can give in form of an injunction. However, Mr. Doci, it is the judgment of the court that there's not been substantial competent evidence to show before the court a cause to grant your petition for protection against stalking violence, as that term is defined in the Florida law. So with that, this case is dismissed. Both parties shall go forward with their day, and to the respondent, you shall go forth without day. Case dismissed. Thank you.
Your Honor, can I ask you one question?
Case dismissed. Mr. Roden here?
I am, Judge.
Oh, Mr. Roden, good morning. Come on up. We also have Petitioner Smith. Petitioner Smith present. Trent Smith, please come up. I want to speak to you all briefly. I set the order of trial, so I just want to make sure everybody's ready before we proceed with trial. Please make yourselves comfortable. This case, if I'm not mistaken, was previously addressed by the litigants? They all live in the same,
It was two separate petitions by the respondent here, where he was actually
the
the petitioner,
petitioner.
so that's where you're seeing.
that's what it was, okay. Very well. At this point, Mrs. Smith, are you ready for trial?
I see that he has counsel. I would like to,
Okay. How much time would you need to secure counsel?
October 15th would work.
Mr. Roden?
I understand that. Judge, we do object. We are here. It's been over 10 days. He is the petitioner. He's supposed to show up in court ready to go. We're ready. These things are expensive. He had every opportunity to retain counsel if he felt like it. This has been an ongoing thing. He's been to court twice before, so he kind of knows the routine. So if he wanted counsel, he should have retained counsel.
I do have my, one of my witnesses that is not feeling well.
Okay, so that's the other issue.
Yes, sir.
Can I trust that we can keep the peace in this satellite beach, isn't it? Is it satellite? Indian Harbor Beach. In the Atlantic.
Yes, surprising.
In the Atlantic. Can we keep the peace in the township of in the Atlantic until this matter is addressed on October 15th? Meaning remain as neighbors without any interference with the other side until we address this in court?
I've heard there haven't been any problems since the temporary injunction.
Well, what I would suggest is, why haven't you talked to an attorney beforehand? This is not the first time you've been in court on these types of issues.
I did speak with an attorney over the phone.
Okay, but I mean, as far as retaining an attorney before today, why didn't you hire somebody beforehand?
Things have been extremely busy with work, so therefore, I did not know I was going to have within a week of, or the 10 days.
They didn't notify you when the injunction was granted as to the court date? The
They
clerk's
did,
office?
October 1st.
I will grant your request for continuance, but in fairness, it's not as if this is the first meeting from both parties before the courts. This issue has been previously litigated, which means you both understand how an injunction court works.
Yes, sir.
I think last time you were all pro se, if I'm not mistaken. They didn't have an attorney last time.
Correct.
Okay. In fairness, I'm going to give you the request for continuance, but to keep the temporary injunction in place, that's another issue. If you're objecting to his continuance,
We do.
Your Honor, if I may
yes.
say, as you know, last time we were here, there had been 2 other incidents as far as assault.
Yes.
And so, as far as my safety and my family's safety, I do not feel safe if that is lifted.
But see, the issue is, as I tell people, this is civil court. You decide when to go to the clerk of the court to file for your petition.
Yes, sir.
You once you file your petition, you receive a call, I assume, from the clerk's office saying the judge has reviewed your petition has been granted, denied, or, right? If the petition has been granted on that day, the date, and the judges in this circuit are very good about addressing these within a matter of minutes, if not from the time you file your petition. So on the same day that you went to the clerk's office, filed your verified petition, you were told as to the court date. One should at that point make an informed decision whether one is ready for trial. If one is not ready for trial, whether one should speak to an attorney or how to go about collecting the evidence to present to the court. If this was your first time, Mrs. Smith, before a judge, I would say, you know what, I have to give him the benefit that this is not the first time he's in this process.
Okay.
You all have had cases before the Honorable Judge Silverman, if I'm not mistaken. You've all had cases before me. So you 2 judges have presided over these issues that are taking place in this neighborhood. And obviously, these issues need to be addressed properly in court, but it has to be done in a fair fashion. If they were asking for a continuance, I would keep the injunction in place, and I would have the same conversation with the respondent, saying, you know, you've been before 2 judges, same issues, you should know better. If you want to get an attorney, you should have made that decision before now. To say I was busy with work really is not a good cause for the court to.
If you're going to not continue the injunction, then I would like to proceed.
Okay. What I would suggest is this. I'm going to table this for this afternoon at 1:30. That's when the trial will commence. This way you can either get representation between now and then, speak to an attorney, check on your witnesses' availability, and I need to address this at 1:30 for trial.
Okay.
This way, at least you have the morning to maybe speak, to get some advice from an attorney on how best to proceed. Because really, I want to make sure you have your day in court the same way this gentleman to my left.
Then I would be ready to proceed.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Okay. So at this point, Mr. Rhodes, I'm going to go ahead and table this trial number 2. The other case I scheduled 9:45, so why don't we meet at 10:15? All witnesses and documents ready to be presented to the court.
Yes,
Are you sure you don't want a continuance?
Not if you're going to lift the injunction.
Well, I haven't made that decision.
I apologize. I thought that's where you were leaning
No,
towards, because
I'm
I live
just-
directly across the street.
I know you do.
And, yeah, it's not a good situation.
Because the last incident, I believe the petitioner would probably even agree, was 8/1. And he waited all of August and then to September the 20th until he filed his petition. So he didn't show any fear during that long stretch of time. So the continuance would be for less than that period of time.
And Mr. Rhodes, if I grant the continuance, what is the procedural prejudice to you and your client?
Well, there's no procedural prejudice, Judge. There's just practical precedent. We got to get back here, it costs money,
I know.
that sort of thing.
Well, those are issues the court could address. And you said your witness has some medical issues?
She's not feeling well, and largely due to the situation. And the reason for my waiting. Oh,
We don't
excuse me.
need to.
Sorry.
We don't need to address that. Ms. Roden, my apologies to you and your client. I think, you know, this is an issue. If I have to make a final decision, I want to make sure I've given everybody their day in court. So please convey my apologies to your client for this delay. And Mr. Smith, next time, if you're not ready, then, sir, at that point, that's it. So in the future, please be mindful, as the plaintiff or the petitioner, you have total control as to when, where, and how the matter should be addressed. So be fully prepared when you go into the clerk's office to file your application, okay?
Yes, sir.
So with that, the temporary injunction, I'm going to go ahead, continue to October 15th, time certain. Madam Clerk, how's my afternoon on the 15th? Because I don't want to keep these folks waiting. 10:15, 1:30, let me see how my schedule is then. To both sides, is that the afternoon work for everybody?
Yes, sir.
That's good, Judge.
I have, looks like a couple of status hearings at 1:30, so why don't I table this for 2 o'clock, so this way you're not waiting. October 15th at 2 p.m. Time certain. If you all need to speak to the court about any issues, file your motions in writing, send a copy to the other side, and then we'll schedule a telephonic or in-person meeting to address any pretrial issues, okay?
Yes, sir.
But otherwise, please be ready for trial on the 15th,
Yes, sir.
okay? Thank you all.
Thank you, Judge. You can sit outside.
Okay. Right.
Okay, who all is here? Mr. Hodesing,
Yes, sir.
you're here on what matter?
Mr. Smith is the petitioner, and Mr. Doci is the respondent.
That's right. Mr. Golub, you
Yes,
represent,
Judge. I represent
what time are you all set for?
Two?
2? Come on up and take a seat at the tables, please.
Judge, if I may, I anticipate there will be a video to play.
Yes.
If we could ask to go ahead and move that over here so we get that. So
All right.
we can make this over quick, please.
Okay, could you all give me just like 2 minutes here? We've had a full day. Set it up, Mike, give me 5 minutes.
Yes, sir.
Back on the record, Mr. Hodesing, is there something you wanted to play in terms of the video?
When the time comes, not just.
All right, may proceed. We're still in the petitioner's case?
Yes.
Very well.
I was cross-examined. No, maybe it was through you.
Okay, may proceed.
Thank you, Judge.
You're reminded you're still under oath.
Yes, sir.
I think, I don't know if did I show you the pictures yet?
No.
I don't think so. All right.
Hold that from the inside. Oh, no, yeah. Okay. Across the street. Okay. Got that. Oh, this was the last fight? Okay.
If I may approach, Judge?
May?
All right, so is that an accurate depiction of an injury you suffered during one of the fights?
Yes.
Did you know what that was, what fight that was?
That was the last altercation that we had.
And is this an accurate depiction from the last altercation also?
Correct.
And now I'm just going to show you these pictures here. They're not from the dates of the incident, but they're here to show where your house is in relation to Mr. Dulce's house, is that correct?
That, but this one here actually shows on the day before, October 7th, we were supposed to appear in court for this before it got pushed back. This whole thing started with,
Well, just ask me, I'm just asking
oh,
these.
that's what those are, yes. But this is showing that they had family members parking
All right, I'll
on our
ask you.
property.
And the day before, I guess you have to go to court one of the dates, what is this depict, is this a picture that accurately depicts somebody else parking,
Which is, this whole thing dispute is,
someone's parking in your area, in front of your house?
correct,
Is that your driveway there, or
yes,
parking area?
parking area.
Asked to move these, I guess, into evidence, mark them as marked for identification.
Any objection? All right, just don't worry about marking them for identification. Just go ahead and mark them as the next numbered petitioner's exhibits. What's that? Whatever number it is. Thank you.
Did we put anything? I'm not sure how far we went. Did I ask you about, yeah, I'll ask you anyway. 4th of July, was there any incident that you were involved in 4th of July?
I wasn't, there
This
was him and his mother and came out yelling because kids in the neighborhood were doing fireworks in front of, on the street, and which was in front of my house and in front of his house.
Were any of those people your children? All right.
No,
Okay. So did your children light fireworks near his house? or anything
my
like
children weren't there all day.
that?
or night.
And those children weren't your relatives at all who were with the fireworks?
No, and they were 25-year-old young men that lived down the street.
Okay. Now, does Mr. Dulce have cameras on his, at his house?
He does.
And how do you know that?
Well, for one, the motion sensor lights that come on are on 24/7, shine in my window, so, but through the process of every time there's been an incident with Mr. Doci, obviously, cameras are looked at and shown, so.
Now, do you notice where the direction of the cameras, where they're facing?
Directly on my yard and my property.
And are they always, when you see them pointing, is there always a camera that's pointing at your house and on your house?
It appears that they are, plus they're high-end cameras, so I'm sure they can zoom in, obviously through communication with the police on different matters. They're literally on my property talking, and then another cop will come and go. You know, the audio in there is like ridiculous, so everything you guys are saying can be heard.
And where, we heard from when you're on your yard, or?
Yeah. I don't know how far, but obviously he can hear any conversation in my yard.
All right. I don't have any further questions at this point.
Cross-examination?
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, sir.
Hi.
Okay, I want to go back and ask some questions, but before I forget, the 4th of July, you had an opportunity to view the video before? Did you see the video of the 4th of July incident?
No.
Okay. In that video, or is it your testimony, were you outside on the 4th of July while the fireworks were being set?
Yes.
Okay. So the people that were setting the fireworks, they ran from where they set the fireworks back onto your property.
Okay.
I mean, is that a yes or no? Or you don't remember? I'm asking you.
I don't remember.
Okay. Do you remember people being at your house on the 4th of July?
Yes.
Do you remember those people do you remember standing outside with a group of people on the 4th of July?
Yes, everybody was out on the 4th of July.
Okay.
Yes.
And during that time, when you were standing outside with this group of people, were they running across the street to where Mr. Doci's residence and setting fireworks on his property?
Absolutely not.
And the people that were setting those fireworks, did they run back onto your property?
I have no idea.
And did you shout out towards Mr. Doci's mother when she came out? Did you make any statements to her about Happy 4th of July, or America's great, or anything like that nature? Did you do anything like that?
I have no idea.
Okay,
I didn't, if there's a video, then I haven't seen it, so.
okay. All right, I want to go back piecemeal, because you're alleging three specific incidences. One was dealing with the scooter incident, that's the March 11th, I believe. There was an incident that occurred where you and Mr. Doci got into an altercation regarding a scooter, remember that?
Yes.
Okay. And according to your statement, that starts because you arrived home and Mr. Doci had parked his black scooter on your property somewhere.
Correct.
Okay. Now, the property where it's alleged that it was parked is actually, it's in one of those photos there, it's kind of the roadway. There's a patch of, where exactly on your property was the scooter parked?
In my front yard.
Okay. What are the pictures? I'm going to grab one of the pictures so you can tell me exactly what you're looking for.
I can put it on.
Okay. Can I approach, Judge?
You may.
All right, I'm just trying to understand, sir. So this is the October 6th photo that your attorney showed you. In this picture, there's a Mercedes and another van there. where was the scooter parked?
Where that vehicle is, right there.
Okay, where that is. So it's not in a driveway, it's in the front of your house and the gravel on the front of the house.
Instead of having grass going all the way to the end of the street, as Mr. Doci has, we have gravel.
There was some big, and I'll get to the actual incident, but there was some big disagreement between whose property that actually is, correct? Whether it's your property or it's county property.
He put it there to antagonize.
That's not the question I'm asking you. I understand that. I understand that that's your position. What I'm asking is, does the sheriff deputy come out on this day, on March the 11th, dealing with the scooter?
Mhm.
Yes?
Yes,
Okay. And does the sheriff deputy then come out the following day to talk to you, or maybe a few days later, to talk to you about the actual, who owns that piece of property?
well, on that day when he came out, he made Mr. Doci move it and said, that is his property, you need to get it off.
Okay. Did that in fact turn out to be an accurate statement?
Apparently, there's a 10-foot easement, I guess, on property, so
Okay, so the answer is no. I mean, where those cars are parked, it's a very narrow area where you all live, unfortunately, right? There's not much space between, and there's
if
enough for
I-
two
if-
cars.
So if I parked my car on his property, that would have been okay?
Sir,
No.
you're the one that's bringing this forward. I'm entitled to ask you
I
questions.
understand,
Okay.
I understand. It was on, yes, it was in my yard, and it was antagonized.
Your next question, sir.
So then, that's first incident. There's allegations dealing with the scooter, Mr. Doci's scooter, and we move on from there. That was it. I mean, there's damage to the scooter. You say that you did it. You said it happened during a disagreement, but that's in essence what happened with the motor scooter.
Correct.
Okay, all right. Then, we move on according to your statement. You say it's in July, but I want to go backwards a little bit. Do you recall, sir, on April 29th of 2019, about 7:53 in the evening, being given a trespass warning where you're not allowed to go onto the property of Mr. Doci?
Yes,
Okay? And in fact, you signed that on April 29th of 2019,
yes.
okay? Your next incident that you say occurred was, according to your statement here, was July 18th of 2019. And to keep things, this is the fight that takes place in the back of Mr. Doci's property, outside his fence. So we're on the same page. You understand that, sir? You know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
Okay. Now, when that incident occurred on the July 18th, 2019, Mr. Doci is nowhere to be seen. You're walking in the back and you don't see Mr. Doci, do you?
No, not at all.
Okay? So then, all of a sudden, the dog starts to bark. Mr. Doci's dog starts to bark,
Correct.
right? When that incident's taking place, are you walking behind the property of Mr. Doci?
I'm catty-cornered to his property and on the property of the gentleman that I was with.
At some point in time, do you walk down the fence line of Mr. Doci's property?
In the back of Mr. Doci's property, yes. It's in a swell, it's in a county.
Okay,
Property.
so you have no reason to be walking down that area, do you? There's no reason for you to do that, is there?
Yeah, there was.
Okay, and the reason exactly is what, sir?
I was told by the neighbor, because at this time, Mr. Doci was calling code
Sir,
enforcement
sir.
on every single, you asked me a question?
No, the question was, what were you doing? What was your intent in being there?
I was told that Mr. Doci was throwing his dog feces over into the county property.
What was your intent in being there? So what were you going to do?
Well, first of all, I had never been back there, so I was invited by the neighbor to see what it looked like back there, and because he was said that there was dog feces back there. And if I saw it for myself, I was going to call code enforcement and report it.
So is there a reason why your neighbor, if you know, why didn't he go walk back there and look? Why did you have to do it, and not your neighbor?
He was with me.
Right. So, but you know you have a trespass warning against you,
Yes.
all right? And you
Wait,
know.
wait, I don't know if that was after that incident or not.
Well, according to your paperwork that you sworn and you put in, this incident with Mr. Doci is July 18th of 2019. And and the trespass warning is April 29th of 2019, so a good 3 months beforehand,
Okay.
all right? So you should be walking nowhere near that property.
I live across the street, so I'm always going to be around that property, and I was not on his property, and I had no idea that even Mr. Doci was even home. I was not looking over his fence. I was not even within 10 feet of his fence. I was on county property.
Okay, sir. Again, we're going to see that. But you had an unobstructed view of that swale, do you not?
Correct.
Okay.
Does your video purport to depict the altercation?
Yes, sir.
The video shows all this stuff, so I don't know how the question, maybe if we showed the video, it's kind of somewhat unfair because he's never seen it.
He was given, his counsel saw it, and the only reason I'm just not playing the video is because it's important, there's contradictions in his statement with the facts that
You may
we're seeing.
proceed.
Did you, in fact, while you're standing in the back of the property there, were you whistling to get the dog's attention?
Absolutely not.
Okay. So was your friend the one whistling?
Absolutely not.
So in your statement, you put here that, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think you said Mr. Doci was the one that was whistling? Or,
We heard a whistling like as if it was like someone was whistling, but it wasn't me and it wasn't my neighbor.
okay. And then, when the whistling begins, that's when the dog begins to bark, and then Mr. Doci walks out in the backyard. And eventually, he walks out and you see him, correct?
Yeah, he just comes charging out the back of his fence, yeah.
And when you first made contact with Mr. Doci, is it on the property of Mr. Jasko, Jasko, where you first have contact? Or are you, and what you're calling the county area behind the home of Mr. Doci? Which one of the two is it?
I'm in between Mr. Doci's property, or the swell, and Mr. Jasko's property. On county property.
All right, and then just to fast forward everything, what winds up happening, there's a fight between you two.
He charges and comes at us, yeah.
All right, and you come back and everybody's hitting and screaming and dogs are released and all kind of mayhem, correct?
No, he comes out, he gets right in my face, screaming and yelling. Mr. Jasko tells him that we're not there to antagonize his dog, we're not there for any other purpose, that we don't want any problems. And I guess Mr. Jasko at that time puts his hand on Mr. Doci. Mr. Doci pushes him to the side, then I step in, because the guy's 84 years old. Mr. Doci immediately comes at me, we're wrestling, I get him to the ground, I'm just trying to subdue him, I'm not hitting him, I'm not doing anything. Then I tell my wife to call the police, and at that time, I go to let go. Mr. Doci takes 2 quick shots to the side of my head. He jumps up, sprints to his fence, opens his door, gives a command for his dog, and his dog comes immediately out of the property and gets within inches of me and Mr. Jasko and my dog, and then gives a command once the dog didn't actually attack us, and the dog goes running back in.
Okay. And now we move on to an incident, the last one, your thing here on September 21st. This is the one where your neighbor he testified the last time we were here. The gentleman, I forgot his name, I apologize.
Fred
Okay.
Siebert?
Mr. Siebert, okay. And you wrote here on your statement, this mysterious deathis issue, which turns out to be dentist. So that was, for whatever reason, that's the way you interpret it. So it turns out it was dentist, correct?
From what I hear from my lawyer, yes, but to me it's just as bad because he's mocking me and antagonizing another situation.
In fact, on the September 11th incident, Mr. Doci again he's on his property.
September 1st, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, September 1st, where the last fight. This initial conversation that takes place between yourself, Mr. Siebert, and Mr. Doci is standing on his property.
At the corner of his property, again, antagonizing another situation.
Okay? And the way that you respond to what you're calling his antagonism is you tell him, why don't you come here? You call him over, don't you?
What's that?
You call him towards you.
After about 5 minutes of him antagonizing, and what I'm hearing is, or think that I'm hearing, is deathis, and this is the day before a hurricane that I know that seems like Armageddon's coming. And I had asked him, I said, are you saying you're going to kill me and my family? I said, come here and tell me you're going to come here and kill me
Okay.
and my family.
That's what I want to know. He's on his property, and you say, come here. Okay. Okay. I want to show you one photo. Show you this photo here. Do you recognize that photo?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Are you the person inside that motor vehicle?
I am.
And that brown Mercedes that you're driving, is that your vehicle?
Mm-hmm.
Yes?
Yes. Sorry.
And the property that it's on is whose property?
It's, Mr. Doci's father.
Now, when you say Mr. Doci's father, it's all one piece of property.
Correct.
Okay. It's the same home where Mr. Doci lives in.
Correct.
Now, Mr. Doci has, part of the problem, stepping back to the April incident, was Mr. Doci was telling you he didn't want you,
March.
I'm sorry, you or your family were backing in and out of his property, is that correct?
That's what he suggested, yes.
Okay.
The reason that this whole thing started.
Okay, and you have I don't know exactly what type of work you do, but I know you have a truck and a trailer that you drive, sir?
Mhm.
And
Yes.
did you at some times back in and out of his property for whatever reasons in your truck and trailer?
No.
Okay.
A dentist? No.
No, that was that'll come up in a second, Judge.
I recall the prior testimony, just in prior.
Yes, sir. Okay. Sir, on the September 1st incident, did you, as you say, when you called Mr. Doci over and he comes over, I know you guys are shouting, did you kick out at him first?
As he was charging at me, I said, don't come near me, I will defend myself. And he came, got within a foot of me, spit in my face, once again, which is what he did when we were in the swell behind his house, which is what also instigated. And why he wasn't arrested that day, I have no idea.
Maybe, sir. Okay, well, whatever. Law enforcement came, they chose not to arrest anybody,
I didn't, I chose not to press charges.
okay? And on the previous incident of July 18th, law enforcement were called out and they chose not to arrest anybody, the one behind the house. in the swale, the fight in the swale? Nobody got arrested, did they?
No.
All right.
Well,
Now-
I was asked if I wanted to press charges, and I said no.
Okay. Now, last question I have here is, you say that Mr. Doci spit at you on September 1st of 2019 to
Which is-
fight the Hurricane Dorian fight.
Yes.
Okay.
And Mr. Siebert testified to that fact.
Right. Now, I can show you, or you can tell me, did you ever write that down in your statement when you were seeking the petition? That you were spat at on September 1st of 2019? Do you want to look it over?
I have no idea if it's not in there, I'm not sure why.
Okay. Because on the July 18th incident,
July 12th, June 12th,
stop,
I'm sorry.
stop. On the incident that takes place behind the house with the dog barking, I keep saying July 18th because that's the day you wrote here. You were specific when you wrote in there that he spit at you. Yes?
Yes.
So when you wrote this, that you were specific about that?
Yes.
Okay. You didn't write on the September 1st date. And you fill out this letter, your documentation for the petition on September 20th.
Yes.
Okay, so that was much closer in time to the September 1st incident than to the previous incident, yes?
Yes. If it's not in there, it's an oversight.
Thank you, Judge. I have nothing right now. Further.
Anything further for the petitioner? Thank you, sir. You may step down. Any other testimony or evidence from the petitioner? From your side?
He'll get out there and shoot himself in the foot.
How does the respondent proceed?
Shoot himself.
Judge, I mean, we have testimony put on, but I don't think that the petitioner has shown at this point, and they have no more evidence, that there is any sufficiency for the issuing of a stalking situation. There's nothing been shown. In fact, Mr. Smith has shown by his own actions, by his own testimony, that he calls him over, he instigates, for whatever reason, he knows what buttons to push, and they get into fight. Law enforcement,
Okay, it's an argument.
I know.
It's just, it's not,
law enforcement has been called out. They reviewed everything, there was nothing there. Then we get the filing of this afterwards. So I don't think there's been a sufficient showing of any stalking violence based on the testimony of the petitioner himself, where he shows, he calls him over, he ends up in back of his area there. There's a trespass against him, he knows he shouldn't be there. So I'm going to ask the court to dismiss this at this time.
Mr. Harding, do you agree with without getting to the ultimate conclusion, do you agree in terms of the standard that I'm required to follow in deciding that motion, that I'm required to take the evidence in the light most favorable to the non-moving party and to draw reasonable inferences in favor of that party's position from the evidence?
Yes.
Okay, given that standard, respectfully deny the motion. How do you want to proceed?
We will call Mr. Doci.
Mr. Doci, would you please come forward?
Yes, sir.
And come on over here. Would you pause there for just a moment? Do you swear or affirm that any testimony you give in this proceeding will be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
Yes, Your Honor.
Please be seated. You may proceed and ready, Mr. Hardison.
Good afternoon, Mr. Doci.
Same to you.
Sir, before we begin, could you please put on the record what your address is, please?
159 Atlantic Avenue in the Atlantic, Florida, 32903.
Right, and with whom do you live there, sir?
with my parents, my wife, and my 2 daughters.
Okay. Do you know Mr. Trent Smith?
Yes.
Okay, I want to, first, I'm going to break down, we'll go down to the incidences, and just answer the questions that I ask, please. Okay, so the first incident that took place is dealing with the parking with the black, the motor scooter,
Blue scooter.
blue scooter.
Dark
Okay,
blue.
all right. So that we're not here all day. Why did you park the scooter where you did?
I know that's county property, and because we had a tight space where I was parking that scooter on the side of the walkway, and I noticed that Mr. Smith showed no respect for my property. He used it as he pleased. He never showed any respect when I waved at him. He turned his head. I said, that's county property. Why should I strain myself when I can park like anybody else? And I've seen many other neighbors do that.
Okay. And then, did you in fact go and put your scooter on the county property?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Now, at that time, then, does Mr. Smith come to your home to talk about the scooter?
Yes, he comes. My mother runs to my room, small utility room. At the time I had my headphones, I didn't hear no bell or anything, but she knocks immediately at the door. She said that there is somebody at the door. She believed it was the neighbor across. I said, okay. I walked outside and I said, hello, how can I help you? He said, is that your scooter parked over there? I said, yes, it is. And he said, why is your scooter parked in my property? And I told him, that's not your property. That's county property. Anybody can park there. And Mr. Smith said something in the order, well, that's my property, okay? And if you don't move it, I'm going to go over there and move it. And we were on our property at that point. And I said, look, it's in county property. I see your kids, you go in my driveway all the time, in my property, not just on the grass part. And you guys show no respect. You guys wave. So there's no way to come talk to you. Because before that, he said, well, why didn't you, if you had this problem, why didn't you come and talk to me? Be a man about it. And I found that disrespectful. So I said, you know what? I don't want to talk to you because it's clear to me. You don't want to talk to me when I pass by with my bicycle. It's a one-way street. You disrespect my property. I said, I don't want you in my property anymore. Okay, I'm trespassing you verbally, okay? And my scooter is staying there. Mr. Trent at that point got very aggravated, and initially he proceeded to go around the other driveway where he trespassed, and we have that picture. But then he decided to just go through me. And I was by the grass, so he comes and pushes my shoulder, right, with his shoulder, like, you know, he was in control. And he goes to grab my scooter by one of the handlebars, the right handlebar, and tries to pull it. At that time, I had followed him because I couldn't believe this guy is actually not fact-checking nothing. It's just his. So I went over there and I was on the rear left side of the scooter. And as he's pulling it, it starts falling. So I grab it, I stabilize it. Then he gets angry, right? He turns around. He's even angrier now. He turns around, goes, walks on the street, on the side of the street, past me. I kept my eyes on him, turned around, and he goes I'm at the corner of the scooter, right at the rear, left rear, scooter is facing east, and he is about 8 feet away from me, and he says, if you don't move that scooter, I'm gonna kick your ass. All right. So I said, well, you know, if you think you can do that, you're going to force me to defend myself, and you'll be surprised, I said. And at that point, he's screaming, this is my property. His girlfriend or fiance comes out, and she starts screaming also, this is our property, blah, blah, blah. And then Mr. Trent moves towards me, gets on my face, up to about a foot. That's when his girlfriend, fiance comes along, and she puts her elbow on my neck and her back on him to push us aside. At that point, I took my hand and I pushed them, both of them, away from me, because she's putting it right on my neck. he gets so angry, he runs around to the other side, to the right side of the scooter, and gives it a heavy kick, and I hear the crack. And my scooter has a platform, so I couldn't see exactly that he had hit the tail light, but I did hear the crack, and the crack is, it was pretty loud, and it was a kick. I was right there. Then she goes, his girlfriend or fiance, I don't know what their relationship is, but she goes and she starts talking to him, and then one of what's his name? Fred's friends comes in and takes them in, and at the same time, she was calling the police because she said, she was telling the police, oh, I'd hit her when I pushed her.
Okay, hold on. Let me ask you some questions.
Yes.
Okay, so, after they go inside the house,
Yeah.
okay, what happens to the scooter?
I left the scooter right where it was.
Okay.
I went inside, called the sheriff's department.
All right, and unfortunately, as has happened here, the sheriff comes out?
Yes.
All right, just answer my question.
Yes.
All right, and then when the sheriff came out, we know there's conversations between the two of you. Do you move the scooter back onto your property?
He told me, he instructed me to do it, so I moved it right across and I blocked one of the driveways and left it there.
Okay.
On my property.
On your property?
Yes.
Okay, all right. All right, I'm just gonna, we have a lot of photos, so I'm just gonna show you. Can I approach, Judge?
You may.
Showing this photo here, and do you recognize that photo?
Yes, that's my scooter.
Okay, and is that the damage that you're talking about happened on this day?
Yes, as you can see, it's cracked here because it's been pushed down this way. It has moved from his factory installed location, and you can see here, it's been moved to the left and down, and this came up, and it's all cracked.
Are you moving the admission of that document?
I am, Judge, do you want me to do them individually, or do everything at once?
Whenever you're ready, if everyone's
just-
ready to go. Any objection to the scooter photograph?
No.
Admit that is the respondent's, I think it's the first.
Yes. Okay. I'm going to show you a previous photo, but you recognize this photo here?
Yes, I do.
Okay, and, I mean, Mr. Smith's already testified that this was on the property, kind of on the parents' side.
Yes, that's on the place where my parents parked their van. It's a single spot.
Do you remember when this photo was taken?
Yes, I took it. I was inside the kitchen, and I believe is April 27th.
Okay, was this the photo taken after the fight with the scooter?
Yes.
Okay. Judge, if could I admit this photo?
Any objection to the respondents too?
After the incident with the scooter, you called law enforcement, and did you request of them to issue a trespass warning, a formal one?
Yes, I did, because I had verbally told Mr. Smith, I had told Deputy Goodby to let him know, and I also asked him to give me an official one when the scooter incident happened. Then this happened multiple times. I didn't catch him to take a picture, but
Hold on. Let's stay focused on what we have here. So then, you call on April 29th. The day that the trespass warning, was that before or after the car incident?
the trespass warning was signed after.
After the Mercedes incident?
Yes.
Okay. Judge, if I may move in the trespass?
Any objection to the trespass warning? It's the next number of respondents. Exhibit.
Are we good to go? You didn't object to that? That's what.
No,
we-
that's in.
No, Melody,
Oh, okay.
What's that?
you already said that you had it. so-
Okay, it's, right, your next question. Go ahead.
Okay, all right. Okay. And on the, okay, now, to clarify, the incident that takes place, the fight in the backyard. All right. The information here says it was July 18th of 2019. You kept telling me something from other. What is the date of your recollection?
It's July 12th.
Okay.
That's from what I remember, and the video has, it's dated and timed.
Okay. Now, so that we can move things along here. Now, the first incident that took place with the scooter, there was no video of that?
No.
Okay.
I hadn't installed anything at that time.
Okay. Now, the incident on July 12th with the...
June 12th.
It's June 12th?
Yeah, it's June 12th. July 4th is the July 4th incident, and then we had minor altercations with my wife and my daughter in between, and then it was September 1st.
Okay, all right. Those incidences, the behind the house incident, the July 4th incident, and the September 1st incident, those, you have a video of those?
Yes, I do.
Okay, and did you bring those today?
Yes, I do.
All right, and that's why we moved everything along to play it if there's no objection.
Correct.
Judge, since the evidence is better than the testimony, if, with the court's permission, if we could play those?
Any objection to the video of the backyard?
No objection to the incidences that we have, which are
That your client identified as July 18th, he identified it as June 12th. Right.
Can I
Go ahead and
ask?
play it. Mr. Golub, you and your client can go ahead and arrange yourselves to see this, but we need to not, I don't want two parties really in proximity here. So you've already seen it, right?
Right.
Why don't you come on over to the witness chair here?
I'm just going to ask him to play it.
He can come over here and play it.
Okay. May he stay at his seat there?
He can stay seated if that's preferable.
Okay, all right, let me turn it on.
Okay. Can he see it there from where he's
It
at?
should be on right now.
you see it.
Yes,
He can see it on his?
yes, I can.
All right.
Okay, so if you would please take us down to backyard incidents.
Backyard incidents, okay. First incident is here. Should I start playing?
Yes, please.
This video is showing,
Just let it check.
How long is this video?
about 1 minute.
Okay.
The,
I promise we'll have an opportunity to explain about it further. Just let it play for now, okay?
thank you. The sound is not playing.
It is.
I can play it much louder with this one. Next one. this is from another view. You can see Mr. Trent here. The video is slightly. Next one. Next one.
Was that the,
But you can see when we go
was that the one that was described as the backyard incident? That's the one we just saw a moment ago. Could I see that again? Or is there another view of it?
There is a zoomed view.
All right,
Yeah, I think we have a few views.
all right, very well.
Let's play the next one along.
The next one?
Yes, sir. Not the one we just saw.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Now, if I can just ask a question, because people disappear. Is this when yourself and Mr. Trent are on the ground fighting? Because when we look, just answer yes, no, because when we look here,
Yes,
He can't see.
he tried to tackle me to the ground. The old man, it's not on this video specifically because this is a choppy video, grabs me from the shoulders and helps him get to my feet. I lost balance, then Trent got on top of me, he was on top of me, but I managed to get his head and I was getting tired. When he lowers his head, the old man grabs my feet because I needed my feet for leverage to get him tired and flip him over. At that point, when he lifted my feet, I lost the leverage, but I didn't let go. That's when his wife runs to us. I let go, and I put my hand down to get off the floor. He's on his feet, crouching on top of me. He hits me on the back of the head, but I didn't pay attention to that because there was her with a dog, and you had Yatsko helping him. So I ran towards, and he's following me. He follows me. He wanted to grab me again. That's when I opened the door. My dog was right there, and he leaves. And my dog goes after their dog.
okay, so, play the next one.
So I tried to call him over.
Bless you.
He wouldn't listen.
is?
Trent.
And I walked up this street and we started fighting. No.
Are those all the videos dealing with this one incident?
Yes.
Okay.
There should be more maybe this is you guys have.
That video was not recorded, that section.
We were looking last time.
Isn't there a?
No, it's what is there is, I believe, is when I step out with my while I was eating.
Yes, that's the one he's asking for.
Okay, one moment. So right about here. I only stepped out here, but it's this one. So, I'm sorry. There's a lot of videos. So this is where they're instigating, whistling. My dog, when I whistle, he comes to me. Oscar, when I whistle, my dog comes to me.
Okay.
That's his response. Here I have a sandwich on my left hand.
That's what I'm saying. See, where's the next one?
The next part was not recorded. This system was just installed and it didn't have the correct wireless signal.
So you don't
Okay.
have the one where we actually go out there?
Well, I can tell you. I opened the door, I told him to get out of here, and then he calls me over. He said, "Come here." I can take a polygraph test and,
No, I'm asking, we're just trying to figure out. So the next video that you have in line, play that one, please. I think that's the one the judge will want to see before. If you could play the next one in line.
the next one in line is where we're here.
Okay, so you're outside of this.
I have a zoomed version of this.
Okay. So did you want to see any of these again?
No, thank you. I watched them very closely. Thank you.
All right. Now, it says everything here, it's just been, yeah. So then, since we're all set up, the incident takes place on September 1st. No, July.
July 4th, it
July
before.
4th. Yes, so you can put it on.
I'm only interested in July 4th because one is on Mars and two doesn't really have anything to do, I think, with my point.
Well, I understand your objection. Let me go ahead and I'll reserve on that. Let me take a look at it. And
I guess my argument is not relevant.
if it's really not relevant, and I will so rule it momentarily, let's go ahead and see it.
Can I say one thing? No? Okay, okay. No, but the cop said that they could clearly see it zoomed in. They spit in my face.
And for the record, what we're seeing there is view coming from your house onto the,
On the street, yes, Atlantic Avenue. Did you see that? That's malfunction.
I can't make out any of the people.
it sounds different. It's more the actions.
The actions, but I can't see the,
I can, the Zoom version will show.
what do you purport that that shows that's pertinent to this matter, Mr. Hodison?
In fact, we're getting to now, Judge.
All right, go ahead.
So now they're throwing it in our yard.
Is there one that shows the fireworks being close to the vehicle?
Yes,
Because we get it out, because
yes, right there. He places it about 5 feet. That was a small one.
is this the last one? Are there any more fireworks after this?
No,
Okay, fine.
it's my mother coming out. They're calling her, telling your son.
Happy 4th of July! Go USA! USA! Right? Yeah, let's get it. Oh, 4th of July! Good job, yeah! You got ready for the
Now, then, the next have, or is the incident took place in September?
Yes, September 1st.
Okay, maybe you could play that, please. I know there was, well, no, just play the September. Hold on, stop.
Just a moment. I gather their suggestion is that your client was somehow responsible for the fireworks in close proximity of,
Right, there's nothing that shows that or proves that.
it may be the subject to other testimony. The location of it may be pertinent. Overrule the objection. May proceed.
Okay, now, for the record, what we're going to play now is the September 1st occurrence, Judge. You this gentleman,
Hey, sir.
Lou?
Yeah, that's me.
How do you think you're gonna go down the second time? Go down the second time. Okay, go down the second time? Yeah. Think again. Yeah. I got a new thing. It's the best. Got the left.
Play the next view angle. I have a zoomed version of this.
Before you go on, there's a black vehicle that pulls up.
That's my wife's car.
Okay.
She returned, she just left,
Okay,
and then,
just a minute. So we know what we're looking at. Okay, good.
okay, that's, I have zoomed versions to see all the small scenes, you can see them nice and
I'm
big.
asking Judge Dutch, do you want to see a Zoom version, or are you satisfied with what you see?
It's not up to me, it's what you want to show me.
Okay, go ahead, please.
Okay, I'm gonna, I have them here, I'm gonna go through them very quickly in order. This is my mother walking out July 4th.
No, I don't want you to do that.
The last cam,
Yes,
the last,
the five, yes, please.
okay. The backyard also?
No, we don't need to
Okay.
see back in, that was pretty clear. Just,
This is whole fight zoomed in. Trent is right here. Fred is right here. Next one.
Is the person in the white shirt, who's that?
That's Trent.
Okay, and you're blue shirt.
I'm the blue shirt.
Okay, all right, the next one.
These cameras are now, these views are just specific to what happened, the kick.
Okay, we just want Okay, you can stop. That's fine. We didn't say mention that. Okay. All right, I think that's it.
Yes.
Okay, that was it for the videos. You could go
Thank
back
you.
there.
Mike, you can reset that.
Never mind, never mind. Please, be careful.
Are we going to be using this any further,
No, sir, I don't.
Mr.
I
Collins?
don't know yet.
All right. May I proceed, Mr. Hardison?
I just want to, now that we watched the video, I want to ask you a few questions. The incident, and I'm going to call them not by dates, but by incidents. The incidents in the back of the house, okay?
Yes.
Were you whistling at your dog?
No.
Why did you become concerned when your dog starts barking?
Well, I had gone to the kitchen. I was playing video games. I had gone to the kitchen. My dog wasn't barking at that moment, and I was making a sandwich. I made the sandwich. I started hearing my dog bark, and I said, okay, they might be instigating, because from the previous day, I had noticed their dog on our property, inside our property. So I had called animal control, but it was too late. So they answered that same day on the 12th in the morning. And this happened in the afternoon, so I was aware that they might retaliate. So I said, what can they possibly, how far can they go? Because I have cameras. They're instigating a little bit over there. They're going to get tired, and the dog is going to stop barking. So I continue to eat my sandwich, but my dog doesn't stop barking. So I was like, what's going on? So I walk outside, and I hear noise all over the house from every corner. I had assumed it's only on the eastern side where Yatsko lives. And I couldn't see at that point because my fence is 6 foot high, 5'5" at least. So I opened the gate and I see Trent. And when I opened the gate, I see Trent, and I immediately understood that this guy is going overboard. And I told him, what are you doing here? You're not supposed to be here. I told him to get out of here. I was at the open door. And Trent says something that I don't remember, but then he says, why don't you come here. So I climbed down because it's sloped, and I get on his face. I was like, you want to see me? What's up? I'm here. What do you want to do? And that's when he's twisting and turning like he's about to, show me the lesson. And I was like, I couldn't believe this guy. He really thought I was going to get it, and that's it. So he gets angry, and he starts yelling at me with bad breath right on my face. So I was disgusted, and I spit on him right there. It's on video, not denying it. I told that to the police right away. And at that point, I backed away. Yatsko runs to me, and he pushes me. At that point, I push him back. Then Trent, he was maybe 6 feet, like 4 to 6 feet behind Yatsko. He runs around Yatsko, and he's trying to distract me, he's trying to grab me by my waist, right? At that point, I remember he had a glass. They were drinking, so he had a glass. I didn't pay attention, but it was in my memory when we were talking that there is a glass in his left hand. So I tried to keep him, by punching him, to keep him away from either hitting me with the glass or grab me from my waist. At that point, Yatsko is behind me because he comes around like this and I hit him continuously. And he couldn't get a good grip. So Yatsko grabbed me from the shoulders. It's not on the video. He holds me, and that's when Trent gets me on my waist. And I tried to get him off. Yatsko is still on my back. Trent drops all the way to the ankles, and he's holding like this. And I'm continuously hitting him to get him off me. That's when I lose balance. I fall, and he tries to get me from my throat, from the back. At that point, I use my head and my neck muscle to try to flip him over. He partially flips over my back, and he rolls me on my back, then climbs on top of
Let
me.
me, just to move things along, I know, we know there's a fight, so I don't
Yes.
need to play about the fight. So, but what I wanted to know was, you've answered, which is the things I couldn't see. So, at no point in time did you do anything from inside the house to get your dog to start barking or anything like that?
Absolutely not.
Okay. Now, the next fight that we saw in the video, the one on the street, the Hurricane Dorian fight, there's been questions back and forth, and I think it was your attempt at humor, but what exactly did you tell, who were you speaking with initially?
I initially addressed Fred.
Okay, Fred.
I called Fred by the name specifically.
All right, so at the time that you're talking with Fred, is Mr. Smith around there?
Yes.
Okay. There's a statement made about, you said something, it's dentist and surgery. Who were you talking to about that?
I was talking to Mr. Smith,
Okay.
not Mr. Smith, to Fred. But I was referring to what had happened in the back of the house. Because Trent had this idea that he could handle me easily.
Okay, hold on, let's stop with that. So, in the video, you turn to walk away. You're walking back
Yes,
towards your house.
correct.
Right, and then something causes you to turn to go back. What happens?
Trent calls me over, simply says, "Come here."
Okay, and you go over there?
I go over there. I was going to be right there, give him a chance to talk to me. What does he want to say? Because he kept stalking my family.
Okay, and when you go and you walk over there, he's alleged that you spit on him. Did you spit on him?
Absolutely not.
Okay, who made the
I didn't
first?
even get close.
Okay, who made how does the actual fight start?
As I'm approaching him, about 6 feet away, he instantly explodes, steps forward, and kicks me on the hip.
Okay.
Full force. I'm 250 pounds. I was moving fairly fast. And in the video, you can see that my body goes back.
Okay. Now, there's a statement made, at least I heard it. Does somebody make the phrase, "You want to fight"? Does that take place in the video?
That's Trent saying it.
Okay.
And he's saying it as he's kicking.
I see.
He's
So that's,
exhaling. So he's putting maximum strength. The F that you hear is Trent as he's nailing.
okay.
I'd like to point out,
Hold on.
I was inside.
Hold on. Why, on the last incident, on the September 1st incident, we're just watching the video, what causes you to walk outside?
My wife had told me that he stalks her, watches her.
Objection here,
Okay,
sir.
yeah, hold on.
Only as to the state of mind, not for the truth of the matter asserted. I'm not accepting it for that at all.
Go ahead, no, you can answer.
So my wife told me that he stalked us. There was one incident which really upset me. I was at the gym, so I left my house, and it's known that I'll be there for an hour
Okay,
and a
hold on,
half.
hold on. So,
She said,
hold on, so you have this in your mind of what your wife's told you, but specifically on this day,
yeah.
why did you walk out of the house? What, on that day, not in the gym,
I
but on
was
that day?
I was in the kitchen. I had just told my wife goodbye. She was going to work, and I was watching through the kitchen window, right in front, watching Atlantic Avenue, and I see Trent. He comes from the garage, and he's looking at my wife. He's tracking her. He's waiting for her to, and there's a video there. I didn't play that, but I can play
We
it.
have a video of that.
Oh, do it?
Yeah, I'd like to see that.
Okay.
So he's tracking her, and as she walks, he goes to his trailer where he was supposedly doing something, but does nothing. And then I walk outside. When I walk outside, then he leaves. Then he starts walking towards Fred.
Okay. Defense has asked for it, and I think it's important. That's one of the ones that, the video you have? what you
Yes, I
just
have
described.
it.
Okay, I'm sorry, I forgot to ask you to play that one.
Yeah,
Okay.
I can play it.
Yeah, please do. I forgot.
Okay. One moment.
Okay, stop it a second. Pause. There's the voices, is that Mr. Smith, your wife, or anybody?
No, this is the neighbor to the west of my house, talking to Fred.
Okay. Now, we did see in the house across the street, there was a gentleman walking. Is that Mr. Smith?
That's Mr. Smith.
Okay, thank you. All right, you can play. That's your wife?
Yes, she closed the door, takes a little time. She's just standing there. And after this, I walk out, and you can see.
Is there a subsequent video that shows him continue to walk?
Yes, it is, but I didn't include it because I didn't go right away to him. I didn't speak to them. I went to my wife, I was talking to her.
But you showed that.
Isn't there another video of him walking down the street further?
That
There's
video,
one of your wife.
one second, that's a part of the video, it's right here.
Okay.
This video, he had already walked over.
Hey, Sid, how do you think you're gonna go down the second one?
Okay.
So there is a section of the video where I'm speaking specifically to my wife in my language, so I didn't include that.
So you can
Okay, any other questions for this?
No, well, you're gonna have to go back up there.
Yes.
They're gonna have questions. But I don't have anything further, Judge.
All right, cross-examination?
Yes.
You may proceed.
So that last video we just looked at, basically, you think he's stalking your wife.
I know he's stalking my wife.
From that's what you say there. Then you walk out there and you immediately say there's gonna be a second time. What do you say, second time?
That's not what I said.
What do you say, second time?
I walk outside, talk to my wife. Then I address Fred. After I'm done,
Fred's over here with Trent.
Well, Trent
Mr.
Smith hadn't gone to Fred yet. He was about a few feet, and I noticed that.
But on the video, it pulls out that I see, when her car's pulled out, you come out and say something about a second time.
Right.
What do you say?
Well, I understand that he's instigating. Where is it going to go? So how is it going to happen? Ask your questions. So I asked Fred, what's going to happen?
The second time, I'm
Yeah.
asking. What did you mean you say a second time?
Like, if we confront each other a second time, what's
So
going to
you're
happen?
saying if I fight him again, what's gonna happen
I'm
a
not
second
saying
time?
that. What I'm saying is, you guess what's going to happen.
And what's gonna happen?
Anything could happen.
All right, so what about the dentist? Why'd you say you're a dentist?
Because the second time, where Mr. Trent Smith instigated, and we got into a fight when he launched at me
That's the one at the swale.
at the back. It's
Right, the
a
backyard.
drainage canal.
But that
There's-
happened before this, obviously. That was at the backyard.
Yes, so when he did that, he got to know me. So,
What do you mean, got to know you?
well, we got in a fight.
Got to know how you fight. Got to know how you fight, you're saying?
I don't understand what
I'm
you're saying.
asking you, said got to know how you fight. I mean, did you hurt his teeth during that incident? Is that what you're saying?
What I'm saying is, he got to know who I am. If he looked down on me as a fat, lazy, weak individual, how do you think he should be looking at me after that incident?
Well, that's what I'm asking you. Why should he look at you different after the incident?
Because before he was looking down on me, he thought he could destroy me
How do you know that?
because of his arrogance when he showed up at March 11th and kicked my scooter.
Okay.
This guy was unrestrained.
All right, so you think that he thinks you're just this fat, weak guy, right?
Right, then you have him screaming on video.
And then when you're at the swale incident, you go out there and show him that you're not a weak, fat guy.
Absolutely not. He needed help from Yatsko to put up a fight,
And do you punch him in the teeth?
of course.
All right, so when you come out the second time, because you think that he's stalking your wife, you come out there and go, yeah, what's going to happen the second time? I'm the dentist. And that's because you broke
In
his teeth.
reference what
Right.
had already happened.
Correct. Yeah, I'm the dentist. I
I-
broke his teeth last
I
time.
can't predict what's gonna happen,
No, of course
but based on what has already happened, where is he trying to go?
That whistling, that was a bird, wasn't it?
Who?
A bird was whistling in the
Absolutely
video.
not. It was them.
Really? That's a good
Not him
imitation of a bird.
and Fred, but him and Gene
All right, so your
Yatsko.
opinion is that was a human whistle?
That was a whistle from them. It's not a bird.
Okay.
I can play the video again.
We will, if you really want to. It's a bird.
I do.
All right, but I'm not going to argue with you. Let's go, so in the swale, why do you even go out there and approach him? Why not, why even go out there?
First of all, there's nobody, I can show you video on my cell phone, because I have cameras behind the fence now, that nobody passes by there
I'm just asking why
in
do you...
2 months.
Why do
Nobody.
you go out there?
So what
I'm
is
just-
Trent doing?
Why do you go
No,
out
the
there?
question is to you, sir. What was your intent in going out there?
To confront Trent because he called me over. He
Next
said,
question.
"Come here."
And why did you let the dog out?
I let the dog out after we were struggling on the floor, and I got his head, and he was crouching above me and losing strength. When Yatsko pulled my feet, I still had him on the neck, and when his wife was coming with the dog, when I let go and I pushed up, he hit me in the back of the head.
Why'd you let the dog out?
I let the dog out because you can see Trent's intent. He's following me as I'm running towards the door. So the dog was right at the door. I didn't stop him, all right? I just opened the door and the dog went. And obviously I need something in between because now I'm fighting two people,
And
not
you didn't
one.
call the dog, so you needed the dog to help you fight, is what you're saying?
Of course. What do you think we have dogs for? Part of it is self-defense.
Now, just going back prior to the scooter incident, you were upset because his moving truck backed into your driveway when they first moved in?
When it wasn't his moving truck, there was an electrician with an overloaded white truck and a trailer.
Okay.
They backed the trailer and the truck into our driveway, and they came within inches of the corner of the house.
Okay.
I wasn't upset at them. I had never met them. I walked outside, and as I'm walking outside to look at the surrounding, maybe because I can't see the house from the kitchen window, I walked outside and I was inspecting to see if there was any damage done. Because why would anybody do something like that? You don't need to go that far. You can go just halfway and take a turn. It's enough turning radius. I'm a driver. I have a CDL.
So did
I
you
know.
confront anybody about that?
No, as I'm inspecting, Trent and his girlfriend, they approach me. And I ignored the fact that it could be their orderings, but I assumed, I have a brain, I can use it. So I asked them, they asked me about, oh, hi, we're the new neighbors, we just moved in. I was like, yeah, I just walked outside, I don't like it. These guys, these guys who were working, assuming, giving them the benefit of the doubt, that nothing, it was between them. So these guys backed into my drive because from that turn, it's easier actually to back into the neighbor's drive because there are two drivers side by
Right.
side. So we spoke, they told me, no, they don't, their business trailer, they used to have another trailer because they got the new one now. And they go all the way, they don't do these kind of things, they go all the way because there's, on the dead end, there's a turning
Well,
point.
getting to the point, did there come a point where you told them, don't do that, or you shouldn't be coming on my driveway or my
I
property?
said, I don't appreciate it when people do this, because if they slip their feet, right, they can damage my house. That's my concern, I said.
Right, now the scooter,
Assuming these were nice people that moved in. I had never met them before.
all right, so the scooter incident, I don't understand, you believe that's, you're telling me there was nowhere else you could have parked that scooter that day?
Not really. I could have parked it in the backyard, but why would I do that? Because this is like a few months of them living here. I go to the gym almost every day. Naturally, I see them very often. I would wave at them, they would turn their head, like I'm waving to the deputy. And I would say, okay, these guys don't want to say anything to me, they don't want to talk to me for whatever reason, fine. But then, looking at it from my point of view, if you don't want to talk to somebody, I show enough respect, even if I don't like somebody, to not go into their property. I
Right.
respect that.
Right.
They weren't doing that.
And explain that, why, what do you mean they weren't doing that?
They were backing, using my driveway to back, turn around. And since I got that injunction, they know how to turn around right on the street. They don't need to use my
So you were
driveway.
upset they were backing around, and that's really why you parked the scooter there?
No.
No.
There are multiple reasons, all valid. Reason number one, when my mother-in-law comes in, I don't want her blocking the road, all right? She doesn't park over there, so I leave a parking space. If I put my scooter there, she has to park on the road. My scooter was parked, that's what the main reason why it was parked, right on that hallway that I'm walking when I call Fred. See how narrow it is? My scooter was right there. And when my parents come shopping, they have to walk around the scooter. So I said, fine, that's county property. I don't have to treat it as theirs. I have every right to be there. And
Now, you claim that's county property just because someone told you that.
I have a
obviously.
printout from
In front of you.
Brevard County property appraiser showing property lines.
But you already said that these people, as you said, they don't wave at you, they don't seem to like you, maybe you're upset that they pull into your driveway and do all that, so why park there? I mean, it just,
Because I have every right. They don't have a right to come to my property. I have a right to be there. They don't want to say anything for me to explain it to them because earlier I had seen his daughter with that red car. It's a Hyundai or Kia. She was parked right where my wife parks, and she was standing there for about 5 minutes with her friend, checking the phone, all the way maybe like 4 feet from the wall. Who gives her that right?
that upset you.
Of course it does, because they don't want to say anything to me. They're ignoring me, treating me like a lowlife, maybe. I would treat a lowlife that way. And now they're on my property, and I'm respecting, that's a perfect driveway. I want to park there. I want to park there. I have every right to do that.
All right. So, just to wrap it up here, you thought that they looked down on you, think you might be fat or lazy. In both of these incidences that we're really talking about here, obviously there was a scooter incident, but the ones that we have on video, we have the incident where there's a swell, and then we have the incident where you're outside in your driveway. Now, you'd agree in both instances, you went out there and went towards Mr. Trent.
After I was called over.
Right, so someone who you think doesn't like you, who thinks you scum, who uses your property that you don't like, who calls you over, who doesn't even wave at you, but you claim now calls you over, you decide just to go out there and fight him.
I didn't just decide. I don't know if you can hear it, but it's very clear to me that he calls me over.
All right.
You understand?
Okay, assuming that he called you over, why did you go there?
Well, because I believe that people like Trent if you don't show any resistance, if you're not man enough, right, they'll walk all over you, all right? They'll make whatever's happening 10 times worse. So I was gonna be honest right there. I was gonna say, what's up? And guess what? I wasn't ready to fight, Your Honor, because on the video you can see I'm barefoot. I wasn't ready with shoes. I could have been ready with a lot more if I was gonna go for fight. If he wanted to get revenge, spit on me, right? I wasn't gonna fight. That's just a spit. I'll walk right over, get the video, call the sheriff's department, but that didn't happen. He put me in a position. He kicked as hard as he could. He was acting like he's defending himself. Meanwhile, you can see his intent. I have a Zoom video at the end when my wife pries my hands off. She don't want me to fight. Trent gets up and kicks. He's really tired at that point because I wasn't trying to choke him and, you know, unconscious. I was just trying to get him so tired that when I back away, right, he doesn't have strength to come and kick me. But when my wife pried my hands, he kicked and he backed away. She grabbed my hands and turned me around. And as I'm walking with my back towards him, he's running, and I can show you that video, the Zoom video.
I don't see that.
Please
But you've looked at
please
it.
excuse the
No, it's
interruption,
fine.
please continue.
Yes, sure. But I understand, and I'm getting you, because he called you out there, it was just gonna be to say, hi, how you doing, what's up? When in the prior incident, you've already had a fight where you spit in his face, and in your testimony broke his teeth, and you tell him the second time, I'm the dentist. You really are now gonna say that you just went out there to say, hey, what's up, what's going on?
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. Because the first time I didn't hit him, he came after me, that's when he got hit. The second time, you can see it repeatedly. I'll play the Zoom video again. I give him distance after we engage. What does he do? He doesn't run away, doesn't stop, runs towards me. That's when he gets engaged again. It's a repeated behavior
Right,
of
but
him
both-
attacking.
Both times you go out to confront him. Because
Right.
like you just said, you have to show you have strength and resistance to someone like him.
Yeah.
All right, I don't have anything further.
Any further examination? Thank you, sir, you may step down. Thank you. Any other testimony or evidence from the respondent?
No, sir.
Any rebuttal?
No rebuttal.
All right. You go ahead and hear your arguments. Mr. Gullib, how has the evidence established the entitlement to a petition, for an injunction, excuse me?
I think as in stalking and in violence, that we have the two incidents of violence. I think what you have here is both times, I mean, if you look at the video, watching the video, it shows, first of all, the whistling, I truly believe is a bird. I hear it, and if a human can do it that well, then that would be great if you're bird watching. But I think it's pretty clear that, unfortunately, Mr. Doci has a chip in his shoulder. He thinks that Trent Smith, he thinks that they think ill of him, that he's fat, that he's weak, or that he's a lowlife. And because of this, any little thing he perceives as someone triggering him, he gets upset, he goes out in the back, he's fighting or grabbing an 84-year-old man. He agrees that he spit right away on Mr. Smith's face, and then he lets his dog out. There's their one act of violence when you're watching that. There was no need for him to even go out there and confront them. They're not on his property. They're in a swale. They're talking there. They're not yelling, whistling, or doing anything to confront him. He just jumps to that conclusion because, like I said, he's got this chip in his shoulder that he thinks they think these horrible things about him, so he jumps out there. And then you got the next incident where he somehow thinks that he's stalking, Mr. Smith is stalking his wife. Mr. Smith's out there, maybe two people are stopped, but he's obviously going out there to go to his trailer and going in. As soon as she pulls out, then he goes up and starts saying, you know what's going to happen the second time? And he says, I'm the dentist. Again, actually taunting Mr. Smith. And knowing that he's doing that, Mr. Smith's like, what'd you say? Because Mr. Smith said he thought he said the dentist. So he thinks he's being threatened. So he's saying, what are you saying? What are you saying? Like, come here and said, if he didn't even say come here, but that may have been. And then he comes out there
and approaches him. Mr. Smith and Mr. Fred Siebert, is it,
Siebert.
testified that he spit in his face once again. He may have left it out when he wrote that, but Mr. Fred Siebert said it. He said he spit at him, and he goes, "You want to fight?" And I don't think he's, because the guy's coming, or you want to fight, there's no reason for Mr. Doci to even go up there and confront him. It just makes no sense, and that's your second act of violence. And in the stalking, you just need the two acts also of violence that would suffice for the stalking. The scooter incident, we don't have it on video, so we sort of have he said, she said. But I think what you have here is someone who's upset for, like I said, whatever reason, that they're parking on his property, that they're treating him like he's a lowlife, like he's heavy, and he has something to prove, and any little incident he perceives as them trying to somehow call him out, so he charges and instigates and goes out and commits these acts of violence, and I think that's why the injunction should be entered.
Thank you, Mr. Gallup. Mr. Hardison?
Yes, Judge. The one that unfortunately has some sort of issue here is Mr. Smith, and the reason why is the scooter incident takes place, and then everything gets started from there. We move on to the incident that took place in the swale area. When one looks at the video and you pay attention to it, it's important to remember that there's a trespass warning. Mr. Smith knows, don't go on the property, don't get involved with there. He comes up with this story about how he's looking for poop, but he obviously not concerned enough about it when he's walking back and forth on the swale, because he's not looking down. It's easy enough to look on that swale and see if there's poop there. And if there's a poop there, the other gentleman could have taken care of it, if that's really even an issue. That's just a statement he's making today, because nowhere in his previous statement does he say anything about being on poop patrol. So he's back there, and when you look at the video, he's walking down in the back, and there's a trespass warning. He has no reason to be there, other than to irritate. Because, as was testified, the day before, and then into that morning, Mr. Doci had called and complained about Mr. Smith's dogs roaming around the property.
I have a video.
So, stop. So this just so coincidentally happens that on that same evening, Mr. Smith is back there on the property. My client is nowhere to be seen. He's inside his house eating his sandwich, minding his own business. He's not looking for Mr. Smith. He's not stalking Mr. Smith. He's not outwardly going and standing there doing anything of the traditional stalking of that nature. My client doesn't care. He just wants to be left alone. The issue here then becomes, once Mr. Smith goes into the backyard and instigates the situation, Mr. Smith would want the court to accept, well, you just have to stand or not take it. Each one. The first incident in the swale, Mr. Smith is the one that says, come here, come here. He calls him. The problem here for Mr. Smith is that Mr. Doci doesn't say, oh, I'm sorry, I'm just going to walk away. So then in the second issue, the one in September, it's the same exact situation. Mr. Doci, this is months have passed now, so we're not having a...
The one in September was not in the swale, it was
No.
your client crossed the street.
Right, I misspoke, right. That one, he does cross the street. The man's calling him, come here, come here. So now we're in the situation again. If you're calling me, I must cower my head, turn around, and walk back inside, which is the reason why I played the July 4th video, because that shows exactly what's taking place here. He wants to, Mr. Smith wants to get on the stand and testify. These are older people. He has no idea what's going on. They're running from his house to the property. They could be dropping these fireworks on their own property, yet they're making the effort to go to the home where supposedly there needs to be an injunction in place because they're so afraid and so concerned. As the court knows, the injunction carries ramifications that are harmful to the person, namely when they're trying to find employment or other issues. There isn't any evidence here to show that Mr. Doci is the one that's doing the stalking.
I'd have you respond to a couple things.
Yes.
Mr. Gollub's suggestion is that spitting in someone's face, in addition to being some variety of battery, is something that's intended to provoke further violence. Is that a fair description of that sort of activity?
No, not based on the same argument that counsel is making.
What do you mean?
Because counsel is making the argument that my client going out there should turn around and leave. The same argument could be made in that when you're calling somebody else and they spit in your face, or they do something towards you, they're coming at you, you should turn around and leave. The reality of the matter is that both of these individuals need to turn around and leave. That's just, we can't get around it. And there was no spitting incident in this, in the issue of the street. So, they can't have the argument both ways.
What do you suggest, what do you respond to Mr. Golub's argument that what your client has a mindset that everything that the Trent Smith is doing is animated against him? If he's outside apparently doing something with a shed out there, he's stalking his wife. If whatever Trent Smith is doing is part of some plan to get at him, does that mindset create a dangerous situation that your client, as a result of that, may be prone to violence in this matter?
Well, if you look at the videos and you look at the testimony, the one that's prone to violence is Mr. Smith. And the reason I'm saying that is if Mr. Smith is aware of these issues, Mr. Smith does not do the two things which he did, other than the fact he does it to elicit this effect. Number one, he goes on his property, he's walking back on his property for no reason. Number two, he's calling him, come on here. If you're so afraid and you're so concerned about this and the way that the gentleman's going to react, leave him alone. There's not been one bit of evidence presented where any evidence indicates that Mr. Doci went and initiated anything. He reacts. Leave him alone. Leave him alone. Both of you, just leave each other alone. And for the most part, they've done pretty good in all this time that we've continued this matter. Thankfully, there hasn't been an issue that's been brought before the court.
Well, okay, the injunctions, Mr. Hodesing, are designed to prevent these things from escalating.
You know, and that's exactly what happens, what's coming from the gallery back there, is Mr. Smith and his friend laugh, and they create issues, and they do stuff. And no, you can nod your head, but that's exactly what's taking place.
No,
but the fact of the matter is, they instigate everything. The unfortunate reality for Mr. Smith is, when he instigates, he loses. So there is no cause for an injunction because there's been nothing presented to the court to indicate that my client has been the one stalking. The only thing that's presented is there was a battery ensued, law enforcement was called. But again, none of those were at the initiation of Mr. Doci.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Hodesing.
Yes, sir.
I'd like you, if you'd care to, Mr. Golub, I'd like you to respond to this. The suggestion is that your client is, Mr. Hodesing used the word instigating. Going back to look for a neighbor's report of poop back there. What he could have said is, I'll take your word for it, it's out there. But he doesn't do that. He goes back out to the yard of this person that he's already had some scuffle with and he's purportedly in fear of.
Well, I think he had an 84-year-old man who was actually having issues with him, and he had asked Mr. Smith to go out there. I mean, you know, I think that there's more there that he was afraid to actually not. But I don't think going back there does anything. I mean, you're not listening. I mean, they're not
It
listening
exposes
to
your client, obviously, to some connection to him, right? Because you're going into some area that he claims.
Well, it's not his.
I didn't say it was. He's claiming it. So is he not inviting that contact?
Well, I don't think people, by going out somewhere and invite someone to come out and spit in their face and attack them. And I think that a whistling of a bird, in fact, if it wasn't for the whistling and the dog hearing what I do believe is a bird whistling, I don't think very few humans can do it that well. The dog barks, he comes out, and then he presumes that it's Mr. Smith doing that. If he doesn't come out, he can come out, but if he doesn't presume wrongfully that Mr. Smith is doing it, but because of his mindset, anything that happens is Mr. Smith, there's no confrontation here because he doesn't go out there and do anything. I mean, that's the problem. He thinks that Mr. Smith or the other guy are whistling as swallows or birds to, they're bird watchers and whistling to try to get the sound, and that purposely to cause his dog to react, and then he jumps to that conclusion, when that's really not what happened. So I mean, technically, you could say just walking outside or walking by his house can instigate him, which it did. He's just walking outside his house, and now he's stalking his wife. Anything he does is instigating. And the truth is, during this time period, when the injunction's been in effect, and that's why he was laughing, there's been no problems in the neighborhood. So.
No, let me think it over. Give me about 5 minutes. It won't be long. I know it's after 5. It's not lost on me. I'd like a minute. Thank you. I appreciate the advocacy on both sides. I mean, which doesn't necessarily make it any easier, frankly, for
Good line. You can start. Why don't you start packing up your stuff? Because when he comes out, then we'll be done. No, he's in there already. That's all we're doing. We don't actually put it into evidence.
All right, let me tell you where we're at on this. I perceive this to be two neighbors squabbling over what was originally a dispute over a boundary line, and where a scooter was parked with respect to somebody's property. They took a dislike to each other, began antagonizing each other over this, and then it escalated from the scooter to some other altercation to other episodes that involve some level of violence. Now, we have 3 particular episodes that were described. I wasn't that impressed with the July 4th one. You get amateurs out there with fireworks, and what a surprise they got too close. But it wasn't, I didn't see from the video that the petitioner was putting them out there. Taking each one of these episodes, there's no video of the scooter episode, and it's essentially a standoff as to the inconsistent, more accurately contradictory testimony as to the scuffle that occurred then. As to the third episode, I thought the respondent was the aggressor. He's going over there. Oh, wait, somebody called him over. So what? You know, he's going over there to bent on showing him a lesson because he feels that he's something that needs to be dealt with that way because of his arrogance and his violence. And, you know, I recognize that that's like becoming part of our society, that where you dehumanize somebody who has a different opinion than you have. He was wrong, and that was inappropriate. So it comes down, in my view, to the third, the middle episode that was described on July 18th, but please excuse that. I'm sure that it's getting late, and somebody wants to know where I'm at. The one that was described on July 12th by the respondent. You know, it's hard to say, because the video seemed to show that they were engaged in close range, which it was really unnecessary for the petitioner to be out there. He's looking for dog feces. It seemed to me that this was, he was willing to antagonize the respondent. They say, well, he doesn't have to back off, he doesn't have to go out there. It didn't make a lot of sense. Then, from the video, after they were at very close range, the respondent appears to be backing off. And that's when the older gentleman comes up and seems to push him, and he pushes back. And that's when, but that's when the petitioner comes forward to engage in a what he would characterize as defense of another. But it was not an episode that would warrant the conclusion that the respondent was the aggressor in that matter. So here's where I'm left with. On two of these, the evidence does not establish the incident sufficient to be a predicate to a stalking injunction. One of them does. Let me tell you what that means to me. I'm not going to issue the injunction at this point based on the evidence. However, stalking, as you know, is something that occurs in a cumulative manner. I mean, it has to be a pattern, a campaign of harassment or other violence which would warrant this. So what can happen is, in the event there's one more episode like this that would be sufficient, and to conclude that, put together with what has gone on, the respondent is harassing the petitioner here, it may well warrant the issuance of an injunction in the future. That's it for today. Have you wait for the paperwork the clerk will generate. Thank you for your advocacy in both parts.
Thank you.